Chapter 546. Lu Kuan looked at An Shao, who had disappeared into the tunnel, with a look of astonishment on his face. Then, he showed an indifferent expression. Previously, when the 9 Spectres sect cultivators and the bronze-armored corpse were fighting, he had already secretly explored the situation in this tunnel. He knew that there was only one path in this tunnel, and there were no other forks that led directly to the depths of the cave. Even if An Shao tried to escape, he was still trapped in this cave and could not use the blood escape technique. Swish! Swish! Just as Lu Kuan's expression was still unreadable, a grayish-black light flashed, and the sound of air being torn apart could be heard. It turned out that the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse had sensed Lu Kuan's daze and suddenly launched an attack. Its grayish-black sharp right claw viciously slashed at Lu Kuan's neck. Its eyes flashed with desire, as if it wanted to see the scene of blood gushing out when the throat was slit. At the same time, it stuck out a barbed tongue from its mouth and licked its dry and blackened lips, as if it was about to taste some kind of delicious food. In the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse's mind, the human cultivator was so close to it and did not even release a defensive barrier. Its lightning-fast attack could easily kill the human cultivator. After that, it could suck the exuberant chi and blood of the human in front of it to its heart's content. It could be said that it had never smelled such delicious blood in the thousands of years it had been conscious. It even felt that as long as it devoured the human in front of it, it could advance to a high-tier bronze-armored corpse. This way, it would be one step closer to becoming a silver-armored corpse. But then, the greed in the bronze-armored corpse's eyes paused. The feeling of flesh being torn apart did not come as it expected. What followed was a feeling of emptiness. The awkwardness of suddenly hitting air even made its body somewhat unstable. At this moment, it heard a thunderous roar. Immediately after, a terrifying force came from its broken left arm. That force was much stronger than its own, and it staggered back and crashed into the rock wall. Roar! The copper-armored corpse let out an angry roar. Its reaction was extremely fast. The moment it hit the wall, it kicked off with both legs, turned its body quickly, and swept its right arm with its sharp claws. Dang! This sweeping strike missed again and bombarded the wall, leaving several claw marks on the rock. TSK, this speed and reaction are indeed very strong. If I hadn't entered the bone treasure stage, I wouldn't have been able to keep up. Lu Kuan's figure was still at the entrance of the passageway, as if he hadn't moved at all. He watched the copper-armored corpse fighting with the air with great interest. As if knowing that this human was not easy to deal with, the copper-armored corpse retracted its greedy and angry eyes. It bent its body and leaned against the wall. Looking at Lu Kuan, who had dodged 2 of its attacks, the copper-armored corpse's gaze turned calm. Then, the cold energy in the tunnel began to move, and the sharp claws on his right arm began to emit a black light. At this moment, another thunderous roar rang out. Lu Kuan turned into an afterimage and disappeared on the spot. This shocked the bronze-armored corpse. It stopped shooting its claws and immediately swept them to its left. Boom! Rip! Purple and black light intertwined. Lu Kuan's figure reappeared at the entrance of the passageway, but this time, there were 3 claw marks on his right arm that were so deep that the bone could be seen. There was also a faint black aura on them that was trying to drill into the depths of his arm. Lu Kuan looked at the wound and frowned slightly. Then, a glaring thunderbolt enveloped his arm, and a foul smell was emitted. The black aura disappeared, and at the same time, the wound on his arm began to heal. Seeing this, the copper-armored corpse's blood-red pupils shrank, and its eyes flickered. Its right claw pressed on the wound on its left arm. There were some electric sparks there, but they were extinguished by the cold energy surging in its body. Haha, as expected of a mid-level copper-armored corpse. Come again. Lu Kuan laughed. Without taking out any weapons, he clenched his fists and rushed towards the mid-level core formation zombie with thunderous explosion step. Roar. The copper-armored corpse seemed to have a tacit understanding. Its figure flashed and quickly met with him. Then, the two figures crisscrossed in the passageway, and from time to time, attacks hit the stone walls. Lu Kuan's eyes flashed with a golden light. As they exchanged blows, he observed with his golden eyes. He discovered that although the mid-level copper-armored corpse was extremely fast in a straight line, it would slow down when it needed to turn around. For other cultivators, there was almost no difference because the copper-armored corpse's short-distance movement speed was far superior to theirs. It didn't make much of a difference if it slowed down a bit. However, for a body cultivator like Lu Kuan, the slightest delay in turning around was a huge flaw. His burly figure was extremely nimble. He didn't meet the copper-armored corpse's sharp claws head-on. Instead, he took advantage of the gap between the copper-armored corpse's turning speed and aimed at the wound on its left arm. Then, he threw a punch that contained thunder and lightning and a force of over 100,000 jin. After hitting the enemy, Lu Kuan wasn't greedy and quickly dodged the incoming claw attack. In this way, the copper-armored corpse was like a fast-moving sandbag that was bombarded by Lu Kuan at will. Apart from constantly waving its right arm, it had almost no power to resist. This made the copper-armored corpse feel extremely sullen. It was even somewhat humiliated to be suppressed in the area it was most proud of. Bzzzt. Another thunder and lightning fist bombarded the wound on its left arm, emitting the sound of thunder and lightning and the power of destroying each other. The wound on its arm was continuously attacked by the power of thunder and lightning of the early core formation realm. Even though the mid-level copper-armored corpse was in this cave full of power, it still felt a wave of weakness. The copper-armored corpse felt a chill in its heart. The greed in its eyes had long since disappeared without a trace. After being hit by Lu Kuan's punch, it stomped on the ground and simply turned around, quickly running into the depths of the cave. Lu Kuan looked at the mid-level copper-armored corpse that fled in panic. His face showed that he hadn't had enough. Most of the opponents he encountered in the past were cultivators who either used spells or magic treasures to attack. And this copper-armored corpse's attack methods were almost exactly the same as his body cultivators. This kind of close combat, the feeling of fist hitting flesh, made him feel incomparably comfortable. It's a pity that this guy lost an arm when fighting with the people from the Nine Spectres sect. Otherwise, with both arms intact, I'm afraid it wouldn't be so easy for me to fight it. After all, this guy's claws are comparable to a magic treasure refined by a core formation realm cultivator for many years. If I get hit by them, even with the defense of the defensive thunder barrier, my muscles will be torn apart. Lu Kuan shook his head. Lightning flashed under his feet as he chased after the copper-armored corpse. At the same time, he pondered, although my muscles can't withstand it, my bones, which have already become the embryonic form of a bone treasure, can barely withstand it. However, the sharpness of its claws is far beyond mine. Lu Kuan's expression was somewhat excited. Its claws can be said to be an extension of its bones. It's equivalent to refining a part of its bones into a magic treasure. Generally speaking, such powerful copper-armored corpses are transformed from the body of a cultivator after their death due to some kind of special transformation of the soul's resentment. Compared to the body of a demon beast, it is closer to that of a human. This means that this copper-armored corpse has great reference value for my bone treasure realm body refinement technique. Chapter 547. When it came to short-range explosive force in a narrow space, Lu Kuan's muscles and sensitive nerves that had been tempered for many years had too many advantages over the bronze-armored corpse's stiff, dead muscles. Even on the ground, Lu Kuan's thunderous explosion steps were much faster than the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse, not to mention that he didn't slow down in the slightest when he was turning. Therefore, the bronze-armored corpse's frightening speed was completely at a disadvantage in front of Lu Kuan. If it couldn't keep up with its speed, it couldn't hit the enemy. Even if it had a stronger attack power, it was useless. The bronze-armored corpse's long-range attack that killed the woman surnamed Yao had extremely high short-range explosive speed. However, since it was fighting Lu Kuan in close combat, the bronze-armored corpse's attack didn't have any place to use it. A purple and a gray figure flashed through the cavern passage. Lu Kuan's full-speed burst caught up to the bronze-armored corpse in no time. Bang! Lu Kuan was behind the gray zombie. He raised his fist, which flickered with purple lightning, and adjusted the muscles in his body to store power. His fist, which contained a terrifying strength of 200,000 kilograms, fiercely hammered the bronze-armored corpse's back. 200,000 kilograms was equivalent to the weight of fine iron the size of a small house. With such a terrifying force condensed on his fist, the power it released was incomparably terrifying. The mid-tier bronze-armored corpse was easily sent flying. However, it only rolled once on the ground before quickly jumping up and continuing to run deeper into the cavern. It seemed that it only staggered a little, as if such a terrifying attack couldn't do much damage to it. Lu Kuan looked at the cracked skin on his fist and clicked his tongue in wonder. When it comes to tempering the muscles, although the bronze-armored corpse has lost the vitality of its muscles, the defensive power of its muscles is far above mine. I hit it a total of 8 times. Each punch was no less than the attack of a mid-core formation arcane treasure. It actually blocked them with its muscles alone. This means that the bronze-armored corpse's muscles are equivalent to a top-notch defensive arcane treasure. That's why it can block attacks of this level. The bone treasure stage of body cultivators is the process of tempering the flesh and bones into magical treasures, but this bronze-armored corpse has already refined the flesh and muscles to the magical treasure level. These are 2 completely different paths. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind as he caught up with the gray zombie that had slowed down. Forget it, I'll just seriously injure it. After capturing it alive, I'll have plenty of time to study it. Let's get rid of an eye shao first. He raised his head and looked at the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse that had just reached the deepest part of the cave, as well as an eye shao, who had a look of surprise in the corner of the cave. Lu Kuan shook his arms, and a surge of qi and blood flashed past. His arms suddenly swelled up, becoming thicker than his thighs. Blue veins wrapped around them, making them look extremely ferocious. A tyrannical and heart-palpitating aura emerged from his arm. At this moment, he directly activated the Power Arm Divine ability. His physical strength instantly increased by 50%, reaching the level of 150,000 kilograms. Boom! The skull-sized fists, wrapped in dazzling lightning, were like 2 terrifying arcane treasures as they heavily hammered the 2 shoulder blades on the back of the bronze-armored corpse. If 200,000 kilograms of strength was slightly stronger than this mid-tier bronze-armored corpse, then 150,000 kilograms was completely crushing. The gray zombie let out a painful roar, and a mouthful of filthy black blood spurted out from its mouth. Its entire body was like a kite with a broken string as it smashed into the gray wall with a loud bang. Even the entire cave trembled a little from this blow. Then, the bronze-armored corpse slid to the ground like a dead fish. Its right arm trembled a few times, trying to support its body to stand up. But as soon as it raised its arm, it didn't have enough strength left and fell back down. Seeing this, Lu Kuan sneered. The body of this bronze-armored corpse was similar to that of a human. As the founder of body cultivation, he was extremely familiar with the structure of the human body. Just now, he had aimed his attack at this fellow's shoulder blades. This mid-tier bronze-armored corpse had strong muscles, which meant that its bones were relatively weak. Otherwise, it wouldn't only have this level of strength. Even with the protection of arcane treasures, the shoulder blades of the corpse had already been shattered under Lu Kuan's terrifying strength of 150,000 kilograms. In addition, the bronze-armored corpse's muscles were extremely stiff. Without the support of its bones, its muscles couldn't be used at all, so of course it couldn't get up. Lu Kuan's figure flashed, and he quickly arrived beside the bronze-armored corpse that was lying on the ground and preparing to bend its legs to support itself. His pair of hammer-like fists hammered heavily at the 2 hip joints of the corpse's pelvis. The two violent tremors from the ground were like heavy hammers that struck Anai Zhao's heart. Anai Zhao, who was hiding in the corner of the cave and secretly recovering his magic power under the protection of the spiritual light, had a dumbfounded expression on his face. How long has it been? This terrifying zombie that killed his junior brothers and sisters was actually beaten to such a miserable state. It even looked like it had lost the ability to move. From this, it could be seen how terrifying Lu Kuan's strength was. Lu Kuan saw that the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse's bones had been crippled and that it no longer had the strength to move. He stopped using the connecting arm's divine ability and frowned as he felt the magic power consumption in his body. He frowned as he used the connecting arm's divine ability for only a few attacks, and his magic power was almost depleted by more than 10%. This meant that the connecting arm's divine ability could only be used for about 40 attacks at full power. It seems that the connecting arm's divine ability can't be used casually after entering the bone treasure stage. If the magic power of the core formation stage is depleted too much, it will take a long time to recover. After this thought flashed through his mind, Lu Kuan glanced at the trembling foundation establishment stage refined corpse in the cave and the little mouse that was pretending to be dead. Then, he turned to look at Anai Zhao. Anai Zhao said with some embarrassment, "Fellow Taoist Lu, I don't have any direct enmity with you, Kacha. Kacha." Just as Anai Zhao was trying to get Lu Kuan to let him go, the sound of rocks cracking suddenly came from the cave, cutting off his words. The bronze-armored corpse that was still struggling immediately lay on the ground motionlessly after hearing this sound. At the same time, the rolling Yin power on its body was completely absorbed into its body. Even the beginner-level bronze-armored corpse that was about to die was doing its best to restrain the remaining cold energy in its body. Such a scene made Lu Kuan and Anai Zhao stare blankly. "What's that?" Lu Kuan's eyes were sharp and immediately discovered that thumb-sized gray ants with large mandibles on their heads had gushed out from the rocks on the walls. Moreover, they had the Yin power of the Qi condensation stage on their bodies. Anai Zhao also discovered these ants. Looking at their color and appearance, his mind faintly had some impression, but he couldn't recall it at the moment. After a few more breaths, the gray rocks of the entire cave were almost covered with these ferocious ants. There seemed to be at least tens of thousands of them. One. These gray ants suddenly opened the transparent wings on their backs and actually flew up at the same time, pouncing towards all the creatures in the cave. Lu Kuan subconsciously prepared to activate his core formation stage defensive thunder barrier, but when he saw the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse on the ground like a dead fish, he had a thought and copied the bronze-armored corpse. Not only did he not use his magic power to protect himself, he even absorbed all of his magic power into his bones. After he finished doing this, he discovered that the number of flying ants pouncing towards him had decreased by more than half, while most of them rushed towards Anai Zhao, who was covered in a thick protective spiritual light. When Anai Zhao saw the overwhelming number of flying ants rushing towards him, he was startled at first, but when he saw the nightmare spirit bracelet on his head, his uneasy heart relaxed slightly. But soon after, his pupils suddenly dilated and he revealed a look of horror. He saw that the thick protective barrier formed by the psychic magic treasure was thinning at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 548. Netherworld Flying Ants? When Lu Kuan heard Anai Zhao's terrified cry, he suddenly recalled the information he had gathered on the Land of Death many years ago. It mentioned these ferocious ants. It was said that the Netherworld flying ants were some kind of unknown flying ant. After being affected by the cold Yin energy in the Land of Death, they mutated and the demonic spiritual power in their bodies turned into cold Yin energy. Each thumb-sized Netherworld flying ant had cold Yin energy at the level of a Qi condensation cultivator. In addition, because they were flying ants, their front mandibles were at the level of a Qi condensation cultivator. If it was just a single Netherworld flying ant, An ordinary low-level cultivator would be able to easily take care of it. However, if there were dozens or hundreds of them, a chi condensation cultivator wouldn't be able to deal with them. Even an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator would likely perish if they encountered them. In fact, for ordinary flying ants, even if there were many of them, their attack power was very low. They wouldn't pose too much of a threat to high-level cultivators. The netherworld flying ants' terrifying reputation came mainly from one of their terrifying abilities. This ability was to devour spiritual power. Any cultivator's magic attacks, magic tools, and even magic treasures could be devoured. A cultivator's defensive barrier and magic power were the same. Even if a high-level cultivator attacked the netherworld flying ants with magic treasures, as long as there were enough of them, the flying ants would be able to work together to neutralize the attack. Although each netherworld flying ant could only devour magic power at the level of a chi condensation cultivator, if there were more than 1,000 of them, even a core formation cultivator would have a headache. However, if there were more than 10,000 of them, any core formation cultivator would immediately flee for Ma-Fei's life. According to the Jade Slip, there was once a core formation cultivator who was surrounded by over 10,000 netherworld flying ants in the land of death. All of his magic treasure attacks were neutralized by the huge number of flying ants. His protective light was also devoured by the ants, and in the end, his magic power was completely exhausted. Without magic power, the cultivator simply couldn't resist the sharp teeth of the netherworld flying ant. In the end, he was killed by the ant. Since then, the infamy of the nether flying ant had spread, and it had once become the most terrifying creature in the land of death. But at some point in time, the nether flying ant had gradually disappeared from the land of death. For nearly 1,000 years, almost no cultivators had found any traces of it. Many immortal cultivators guessed that the nether flying ants had been dealt with by a powerful senior expert. But the scene in front of him, tens of thousands of nether flying ants had appeared in this tiny cave. It meant that the nether flying ants had not disappeared, or for some reason, they were trapped in the one-line sky restriction. In the time it took for Lu Kuan to recall the information about the nether flying ants, these spirit ants unique to the land of death had already covered his entire body. However, Lu Kuan smiled faintly and didn't make any defensive move. He didn't care about this at all. Crack! After a while, a crisp sound came from Lu Kuan's body. Countless nether flying ants seemed to be extremely frightened. They fluttered their wings in a panic and fled from Lu Kuan's body. If one looked closely, they would discover that the ferocious jaws of these spirit insects that were fluttering their wings and fleeing at high speed were already broken. There was even some yellow liquid flowing out from them. You want to break my body with the attack of a mere low-level Dharma artifact? These ferocious ants that had terrorized immortal cultivators 1,000 years ago couldn't do anything to Lu Kuan with their sharp teeth. Even the nether flying ants that were larger and had sharper jaws could only cut through the outermost layer of his skin. After that, they were blocked by the fascia outside his muscles and couldn't move an inch further. Ordinary ants had great strength, not to mention the biting force of their jaws. However, if they bit something harder than their sharp teeth, the only result would be their sharp teeth breaking. After a while, the nether flying ants on Lu Kuan's body completely disappeared. They let out strange screeches in vain and rushed towards an Ai Shao, who was emitting a large amount of magic power in the corner. This number 1 core formation cultivator of the 9 Spectres sect had long lost all color in his face. After his divine sense detected that Lu Kuan didn't care about the nether flying ants at all, he revealed a look of despair. In the end, he clenched his teeth and activated a secret technique. A crack appeared on his golden core, but his magic power was restored to its peak in an instant. The protective spiritual light formed by the confining spirit bracelet was restored to its vigorous state. Following that, streaks of purple lightning appeared around his body. Amidst a series of explosions, the swarm of nether flying ants was blasted away. However, To the ant swarm that possessed the devouring divine ability, only a few dozen ants were destroyed by the overflowing magic power due to the uneven distribution of power. This number was not even worth mentioning in the face of tens of thousands of ants. Then, a giant sword appeared once again and fiercely bombarded the swarm of ants that had been blasted away. The powerful ball of lightning that attacked the bronze-armored corpse appeared once again. Ancestor, who had used a secret technique, was able to control the magic treasure of the spirit channeling magic treasure at the same time as he used the most powerful ability of his natal magic treasure. Amidst the thunderous explosion, hundreds of flying ants emitted a burnt smell and fell to the ground. Ancestor took advantage of this opportunity and flew into the air, quickly rushing into the cave. Boom! Ancestor, who was wrapped in a vigorous spiritual light, immediately felt as if he had crashed into a stone wall. Immediately after, he was blasted away by a powerful force. He focused his eyes and saw Lu Kuan's incomparably ferocious appearance. His thigh-thick arms were crossed like a sturdy shield, blocking the entrance of the cave. Ancestor shrieked, "Lu Kuan, spare my life. I am willing to use a purple firmament pill as a reward. This is a top-grade pill that can refine lightning attribute magic power." Lu Kuan's eyebrows twitched. He did not say a word and continued to stand in place. Sensing the netherworld flying ants behind him, Ancestor became even more flustered. He panted and said, "I still have a secret cave in the Chu country. It contains half of my savings. As long as you let me go, I will give it to you." Lu Kuan revealed an interested expression. His arms also returned to normal. He crossed his arms and said, "Okay, tell me the location and I will not kill you." The secret technique in Ancestor's body had a limited duration. He was afraid that Lu Kuan would go back on his word. He immediately transmitted his spiritual sense and told him the location. Then, he saw Lu Kuan slightly move his body. Ancestor revealed an expression of great joy. He flashed and rushed towards the entrance of the cave. Bang! A loud sound rang out. The ferocious giant arm reappeared. Ancestor was sent flying along with his flying light by a terrifying force of 150,000 kilograms. He crashed into the gray stone wall. The protective spiritual light of the condensing spirit bracelet shook incessantly and seemed to have become thinner. "Lu Kuan, you went back on your word. I promised not to kill you, but I did not promise to let you leave this cave," Lu Kuan coldly said. Ancestor, who was slammed into the wall, was surrounded by a large number of netherworld flying ants in the blink of an eye. He hysterically said, "If I die, you can forget about getting the things in that cave." Lu Kuan coldly snorted and said, "Just the things on you 3-core formation stage cultivators are enough. I, Lu, do not care about your so-called cave." Lu Kuan, soon after, and Ancestor's miserable screams were covered by the buzzing of the netherworld flying ants' wings. In just 2 sentences, the powerful protective spiritual light of his body was completely devoured. Then, the sound of flesh being chewed could be heard. Even a core formation stage cultivator's magic body was only slightly stronger than an ordinary person's. It was impossible for them to resist the attack of a chi condensation stage magic tool. They were easily torn apart by the sharp teeth of the netherworld flying ant. Soon, Ancestor's body was completely devoured, leaving behind 2 shining magic treasures and several storage pouches. Lu Kuan witnessed the entire process of Ancestor's death and sighed, "If I were to meet this guy outside, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Just that terrifying protective spiritual light is not something I can break in a short time. As long as he uses the blood escape technique to escape, I won't be able to catch up. If I were to let him go in this place, I won't have such a good opportunity in the future. Even if this copper-armored corpse can move through the earth, there's no way it can pass through them. Right, I haven't checked the ground yet." Lu Kuan's heart lit up. He seemed to have thought of something. He continued to carefully scan the ground, skipping over the scattered corpses and limbs. He checked every inch of the ground under his feet. In this strange cave, even the ground under his feet was full of ores that could isolate the power of spiritual sense. Lu Kuan suddenly discovered that in a corner of the cave, there was an area about the size of a millstone. There were very few ores in it, and there were almost no silver light spots. Moreover, he sensed that the cold Yin energy here was the densest. It seems that it can only be here. Lu Kuan slowly walked to this different piece of land and muttered to himself. Spiritual light flashed in his hand, and a fist-sized ball of lightning appeared. Then, under the urging of his magic power, the purple ball of lightning quickly grew to the size of a watermelon. Then, it continued to grow, and its diameter gradually grew to about 5 feet, like a millstone. Although the ball of lightning was a pseudo-magic treasure, the silver dragon meteorite within it was a genuine top-grade magic treasure material. As Lu Kuan's magic power grew stronger, the range of its transformation also increased. It could be as small as a marble, and as large as the millstone in front of him. Other magic treasures changed in size, but their weight didn't change at all. However, the terrifying thing about this silver dragon meteorite was that its weight changed with its size. When it was as small as a marble, it weighed only a few kilograms, but its material was still at the level of a magic treasure. Under Lu Kuan's exquisite power, it could explode with terrifying speed and penetrating power. Now that it had been enlarged to the size of a millstone, its weight was almost 10,000 kilograms, and the quality of its material hadn't decreased. The only flaw of this powerful pseudo-magic treasure was that it hadn't become a magic treasure, so it couldn't display the full power of a core formation cultivator. Lu Kuan could only rely on its top-grade material to display his terrifying power. Lu Kuan's palm easily caught the incomparably huge ball of lightning and raised it above his head. His arms swelled again, and the muscles on them twitched as if they had mutated. A ferocious aura was attached to them. It was obvious that Lu Kuan had pushed the power of connecting arms to the extreme. Then, he used the frightening strength of 300,000 kilograms and ruthlessly smashed the millstone-sized ball of lightning at different places in front of him. Rumble! The sound of mountains collapsing and the seemingly solid rock ground in front of him instantly shattered. The ferocious power caused the circular area to collapse inwards. Even the surrounding ore ground cracked. Lu Kuan looked at the ball of lightning that had sunk halfway in. Without stopping, he clasped his hands together and hammered down with his ferocious fist. Dang, dang, dang! The sound of metal clashing echoed in the cave. The huge ball of lightning sank deeper and deeper. After 5 hammering strikes, the ball of lightning seemed to have missed and fell to a place, producing a huge roar. Then, Lu Kuan stopped using the power of connecting arms. He felt that there was still half of his magic power left in his body, and that his consciousness couldn't detect the next level of the cave. He directly jumped down. If he guessed correctly, the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse must have used some kind of method to dive down. Even the heavily injured mid-tier bronze-armored corpse dared to go down. What did he have to fear? After Lu Kuan landed, he lightly landed on the ball of lightning. His peak mid-tier core formation spiritual sense probed out. In the blink of an eye, he clearly investigated the cave that appeared on the next level. The cold power here was incomparably dense. Lu Kuan immediately felt that the magic power in his body was suppressed. He had once felt this feeling in the demonic aura area of the Demon Island. However, at that time, he was suppressed by the demonic aura. As for the cave in front of him, it was about the same size as the one above. There were even more insect body parts on the ground, almost covering the entire first level of the cave. The ball of lightning smashed into a pile of body parts. In addition to the insect body parts, Lu Kuan even found many weapon fragments, as well as some tattered human clothing. However, in the entire cave, the most eye-catching thing was a giant cocoon in the center. It was as tall as a person and more than 10 feet long. The surface of the cocoon was covered with all kinds of strange runes. The shiny black metallic body of the cocoon gave people the feeling that it was indestructible. However, there was a hole at the top of the cocoon. Clearly, it was the same as the body parts on the ground. It was a cocoon left behind by some kind of giant insect. In Lu Kuan's perception, the turbulent yin energy in the cave came from this huge cocoon. Moreover, this cocoon could not only isolate the power of his divine sense, but also obstruct his golden eye divine ability, so he could not see the situation inside. Chapter 550. The yin energy here is extremely dense, suppressing a cultivator's magic power to the extreme, greatly reducing the power of various spells. My lightning power is also suppressed. It seems that this bronze-armored corpse is extremely intelligent. It knows that the strength of a cultivator will be greatly reduced here. Lu Kuan looked at the cocoon in the middle and sneered in his heart. Then, he looked around and picked out a few sharp mantis-like insect limbs from the ground and pinned them to his waist. He knocked on them for a while and took out a hard, square-shaped shell and placed it on his back. Then, he jumped lightly onto the wall beside him. He didn't use any magic power and didn't even make a sound. His tall and sturdy figure seemed very agile. He clasped 2 fingers on the uneven part of the rock and used his feet to support himself. He nimbly climbed to the top of the cocoon's rock wall. The rock wall here was extremely hard, which was actually beneficial for Lu Kuan to climb. This way, he didn't have to worry about the explosive force of his feet, which would cause the rock to shatter and make strange sounds. Therefore, Lu Kuan only spent a few breaths of time to reach the top of the cocoon's wall. At this time, his golden eyes could vaguely see a few shadows inside the cocoon's opening. He clasped the rock with his left hand and took out a sharp insect limb from his waist with his right hand. He held the front part of the insect limb with 3 fingers and shot it into the cocoon like a javelin. Even if he didn't use the Omni-Arm divine ability, Lu Kuan's strength was incomparably strong. Moreover, the sharp insect limb itself contained a lot of yin energy. In this cave environment, it shot out like a fish in water without any hindrance. Almost as soon as Lu Kuan released it, it had already shot into the cocoon's opening. Only then did the sound of air exploding come out. It was clear to see its terrifying speed. Clang! Roar! A flustered and exasperated roar suddenly came out from the cocoon, as if it was startled by this sudden attack. When Lu Kuan heard this sound, the corner of his mouth slightly raised. The bronze-armored corpse is indeed hiding inside and waiting for an opportunity to sneak attack me. Tisk tsk, although I don't know how it recovered its limbs, if this guy attacks me in this narrow cocoon, I really won't be able to dodge. After confirming that the bronze-armored corpse was inside, Lu Kuan continued to throw in the razor insect limbs he had in his hand. Of course, other than making the bronze-armored corpse even more furious, this method had no other effect. The bronze-armored corpse didn't have any intention of coming out. Clearly, it knew that it couldn't hit Lu Kuan in a place where there was plenty of room to maneuver and dodge. It could only use its sharp claws, which could tear apart a core formation cultivator's protective barrier, to strike an enemy. Apart from the trembling of the wall, the cocoon also made rolling noises inside. Lu Kuan didn't care about what was going on inside. Instead, he stared at the spikes on the cocoon's outer shell and the wall. His eyes lit up and he rushed to the side of the gray rock wall. He grabbed the 2 spikes again and raised them above his head, smashing them against a protruding rock. Gotcha! The wall seemed to tremble. A lot of ore dust was scraped out of the rock wall that was difficult to damage by core formation stage transcendent artifacts. The wall still looked very sturdy, but Lu Kuan's golden eye could see that there was a slight crack on its surface. Clearly, with his strength and the spikes on the outside of the cocoon, he could chisel open the ore in the wall. Next, Lu Kuan didn't care about the bronze-armored corpse that was rolling around in the cocoon. He grabbed the cocoon and smashed it madly at the rock. Without using the arm-linking divine ability and magic power, Lu Kuan could swing it over 100 times without a problem. Bam bam! Boom boom! Just like that, the entire cave was filled with the sound of ore shattering, steel clashing, and faint gasping. It was very strange in this gloomy underground cave. After 2 hours, Lu Kuan threw the cocoon to the side and sat on the ground, panting heavily. The gray wall in front of him had a large hole dug out. Beside him was a pile of ore that was taller than a person. That's right, I forgot about the bronze-armored corpse. Lu Kuan suddenly slapped his head and looked at the motionless cocoon on the other side. He hurriedly lifted it up and shook it. Accompanied by a rumbling sound, 3 zombies that seemed to have no intuition were shaken out of the cocoon. Chapter 551. Huh! These 2 zombies recovered so quickly? Lu Kuan carefully looked at the zombies, he threw out with surprise in his eyes. The mid-tier bronze-armored corpse was trembling slightly. Apart from being missing an arm and having very little energy, it didn't seem to be injured at all. Its head was swaying left and right, and its blood-red pupils were dilated as if it was in a dizzy state. As for the heavily injured low-tier bronze-armored corpse, the terrible wound on its chest had mostly healed, and the yellow muscles were still slowly healing. Clearly, this injury would be completely healed after a while. Even so, the low-tier bronze-armored corpse still hadn't woken up, and the energy in its body was extremely low. Clearly, it was all used to heal. As for the black refined corpse of the woman surnamed Yao, it was motionless. Although it didn't look much different from before, the black muscles on its body seemed to have lost their moisture and were extremely withered. There wasn't the slightest energy in its body, and it looked like it had been dead for a long time. Could it be that the bronze-armored corpse controlled the black refined corpses and helped them sneak down here and then absorb them as a tonic? After this thought flashed through his mind, Lu Kuan's hand flashed and the strange cocoon disappeared. It had already been put into an empty storage bag. With the disappearance of the cocoon, the energy in the cave seemed to have lost its source, and its density decreased by more than half. Lu Kuan nodded thoughtfully. I really didn't feel wrong. Most of the energy here came from this strange cocoon. Without the cocoon, the energy here is only slightly more than above, and the suppression of magic power is greatly reduced. As if it also felt the change in the energy around it, the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse let out a frightened roar, and its dilated blood-red eyes gradually became clear. Lu Kuan saw its body struggling to stand up and let out a cold snort. The blood in his arm roared violently. The power of blood burst out and first dispelled the energy that had invaded his hands. Then, he activated the connecting arms ability, and the fist the size of a head blasted towards the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse that was trying to get up. With a crisp clang, the gray zombie was beaten to the ground again. Lu Kuan frowned. Sure enough, its bones have recovered to their original state. It seems that the dense energy within the cocoon is able to help it heal its physical injuries. It's very similar to the healing methods of body cultivators. Lu Kuan's eyes shone with a strange light, but his hands were not slow at all. He punched out 7 or 8 times with all his strength, breaking the guy's relatively weak joint. The continuous attacks of the linking arm's divine ability caused Lu Kuan's spiritual power to decrease by another portion. He was only left with 20 to 30% of his spiritual power. This won't do. When I return, I must refine a spirit channeling magic treasure. Before the bone treasure is completed, only the arm connecting theurgy can reach the late stage of attack. My current FA cannot withstand the consumption. But if I have a spirit channeling magic treasure, combining the power of my physical body and the spirit channeling magic treasure, not only will my battle prowess increase, I will also be able to conserve a lot of my FA. After all, the quality of my bones is much worse than a real magic treasure. My bare hands will definitely not be able to match the might of a magic treasure. After making up his mind to refine a spirit-channeling magic treasure, Lu Kuan glanced at the bronze-armored corpse that was struggling on the ground. He then took out the storage pouches of the 9 specters, sex, core formation stage cultivators and carefully examined them. These 3 core formation stage cultivators were disciples of the same generation as Wang Shitong. They had entered the core formation stage for more than 200 years. Their net worth was not small. Just the mid-tier spirit stones alone added up to more than 20,000, which made Lu Kuan quite surprised. However, the most valuable items were their magic treasures, especially the bracelet that An Shao used for defense. With Lu Kuan's skill in refining, he could naturally see that it was a spirit-channeling magic treasure. Its grade was even higher than the jade pendant that he had previously obtained. As for the magic treasures of the other 2, although they were extremely valuable in the eyes of other core formation stage cultivators, in Lu Kuan's eyes, they were only refining materials. Furthermore, they were Yin-type materials, which were not compatible with his cultivation method at all. A huge purple light flashed and a huge purple sword appeared in Lu Kuan's hand. It was An Zhao's Thunder God's sword. An Zhao was able to use this sword to release such a powerful lightning energy. This means that this huge sword magic treasure contains top-notch lightning-type materials. When I return and carefully study it, perhaps I won't need to look for lightning-type materials for a spirit-channeling magic treasure. As he muttered this, he placed the huge sword into the insect shell shield on his back. Although he couldn't display the full power of the Thunder God's sword as a body cultivator, he could at least use it as a powerful weapon. Soon after, Lu Kuan continued to search through the storage pouch, especially the one that belonged to the woman surnamed Yao. After a short while, Lu Kuan's eyes suddenly lit up. 12 talismans? They appeared in his hand. As expected, this female cultivator prepared talismans to seal the bronze-armored corpse. Just in time for me. His expression was solemn and his hand flickered with light. Talismans after talismans. They emitted a special fluctuation and stuck to the mid-tier bronze-armored corpse's torso and limbs. The corpse was originally slightly twitching, but when the talismans stopped, they stopped. The blood-red color in the corpse's eyes also dimmed. The corpse didn't have enough Yin energy and was heavily injured by Lu Kuan. How could it resist these talismans without any resistance? It was sealed. Soon after, Lu Kuan took out a spirit beast pouch and stored the sealed mid-tier bronze-armored corpse inside. This terrifying corpse that killed 2 core formation cultivators was easily captured alive by Lu Kuan. As for the other bronze-armored corpse, killing intent flashed in Lu Kuan's eyes. He pulled out the huge sword from his back and a golden light flashed in his eyes. Holding the Thunder God's sword, he stabbed at the corpse's slowly recovering chest. Pucci! Although the low-tier bronze-armored corpse's defense was powerful, the wound's defense was greatly reduced and Lu Kuan easily pierced it. The unconscious low-tier bronze-armored corpse was startled awake by this attack. Its eyes were filled with pain and fear. At this moment, Lu Kuan flicked his wrist and the thick sword trembled. The low-tier bronze-armored corpse quivered and completely woke up. It let out an incomparably painful roar and its strong limbs twitched incessantly as it tried to turn around and escape. Chi! From the wound on its chest, a piece of yellow muscle was picked out. Inside it was a gray bead the size of a marble. As the bead left its body, the bronze-armored corpse's limbs twitched for a while before it completely stopped moving. The aura on its body also gradually disappeared. Lu Kuan's hand flashed with a ray of lightning and cleansed the sword. He inserted it into his back and shot out a ray of light, directly storing the dead low-tier bronze-armored corpse into his storage pouch. After doing this, he grabbed the gray bead that was picked out. As expected of the essence of the bronze-armored corpse, the cold Yin energy in this corpse core is incomparably condensed. If I use a secret technique to slowly draw it out, it will be of great use to the entire body tempering stage. Lu Kuan slightly sensed the corpse core and revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. The cold energy in the corpse core was completely different from that in the air outside. The former and the latter could be said to be the difference between magic power and spirit chi. When Lu Kuan reached Foundation establishment for the second time, he received the help of this cold energy. Of course, he knew that if used properly, this object would be another treasure that could accelerate body tempering. As for the last black refined corpse, Lu Kuan sighed. A ball of lightning appeared in his hand and turned it into nothingness. Chapter 552. After another hour, Lu Kuan had a second pile of mysterious ores beside him. His magic power had also recovered to 40%. At this moment, his eyes were closed and he was holding a few pieces of broken ores in his hand. He rubbed them back and forth between his fingertips. Soon, Lu Kuan opened his eyes and revealed a look of pleasant surprise. These mysterious ores should be some kind of metal ore. Although they are very light, their defensive power is extremely high. At the same time, they also have the effect of isolating spiritual sense. This is an excellent material for top-grade inner armor. Lu Kuan immediately identified the greatest use of the ores through the feedback of his strength. He waved his hand and 2 rays of purple light flashed, collecting the 2 piles of mysterious ores. Then, he looked at the surrounding walls and frowned. I only used 4 hours to dig out 2 piles. If I want to dig out all the unknown ores here, I will need to spend at least a few months. The risk is too great. He touched the huge purple sword on his back. The ones who died this time were 3 core formation stage cultivators from the 9 Spectres sect. Their status in the sect was only below that of the nascent soul stage cultivator. Therefore, there must be a soul tablet in the sect. Perhaps it has already been discovered by now. Lu Kuan looked at the surrounding walls and the unknown insect body parts all over the floor. His face showed a hint of struggle. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's not just the ores here. The other things are also of great use to my body refining pavilion. It's worth it to take a little risk. Besides, the ancient restriction here can isolate spiritual sense. Even the nascent soul stage cultivators of the 9 Spectres sect won't be able to find this place within a day. In other words, I still have at least a day." After he finished speaking, Lu Kuan's feet moved like lightning. His eyes released a golden light and he activated the golden eye divine ability with all his strength. He quickly ran in circles in the cave. As he ran, the layer of broken insect body parts on the ground gradually decreased. Lu Kuan collected the sturdy materials with high refining value into his storage bag. By the end of the first lap, dozens of limbs were missing from the ground. Then, Lu Kuan continued to run in circles for the second round. This time, not only did he collect the slightly inferior insect limbs, he even collected the seemingly damaged fragments of the cultivator's magic tools and magic treasures. He planned to study them one by one with Qin Yushu after returning to Demon Spirit Island to see if he could extract some materials. By the time Lu Kuan had finished his third round, more than half of the insect limbs and scattered materials on the ground had disappeared, revealing the gray soil underneath. "What's this?" Suddenly Lu Kuan stopped. His golden eyes seemed to have seen something. With a wave of his hand, a square object flew out from a pile of insect shells and landed in his hand. Lu Kuan blew on it and wiped it with his hand to remove the gray dust on it, revealing an extremely simple and unadorned milky white jade pendant. Lu Kuan didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but he felt a very ancient aura from it. On both sides of the palm-sized jade pendant, there was a lifelike azure dragon engraved on it. It had a long and rugged horn, a slender beard, and even the scales on its body were lifelike. In between the 2 azure dragons there were 2 simple characters. Lu Kuan's pupils shrank and he muttered, "It's actually an ancient character?" This ancient character was from the ancient times of the cultivation world. Nowadays, some mysterious spells and techniques were still recorded in this language. For example, Lu Kuan obtained the Ancient Foundation Establishment and Ancient Core Formation technique. The former came from the Yeyang clan, while the latter was obtained from Xiao Hongfei. These two secret techniques recorded the methods of ancient cultivators to break through to the next realm. A small part of the text was in the ancient language. Therefore, Lu Kuan could understand some simple ancient characters. The two characters on this jade pendant, when translated into modern language, were Wan and Yuan. The reason he was able to discover this jade pendant was because under the investigation of his golden eye, he found that this jade pendant had many complex runes, as if it was a powerful magic tool. What does this 1 yuan mean? Could it be the name of the magic tool? As he spoke, Lu Kuan's hand flashed, and he poured his magic power into it. Huh! Lu Kuan's face was full of surprise. As soon as he used his magic power, this milky white jade pendant produced a suction force, crazily absorbing the magic power in Lu Kuan's body. It was like a hungry young woman meeting a strong young man, crazily demanding. It was like a black hole. The speed of absorption made Lu Kuan feel shocked. In the blink of an eye, it absorbed 10% of his magic power. One must know that he was a core formation stage cultivator. 10% of his magic power was enough to activate a magic treasure, let alone a magic tool. However, this jade pendant did not respond, as if its magic power was not activated. Lu Kuan frowned and quickly cut off the supply of magic power. He had just recovered 40% of his magic power, and in the blink of an eye, 30% was taken by this jade pendant. In this place, Lu Kuan did not dare to exhaust his magic power. I'll go back and study it. Therefore, he threw this strange jade pendant into his storage bag and swept through the cave again. When he found that the remaining things were of no value, he jumped up from the tunnel he had previously broken through. Then, he did the same thing and collected all the valuable insect limbs in the upper cave into his storage bag. He did not let go of the netherworld flying ants' corpses either. Fortunately, Lu Kuan had seized several storage bags. Otherwise, he might not have been able to store so many things. Looking at the empty cave, Lu Kuan muttered to himself and patted his waist. A yellow light flashed and Xiao Jin's figure appeared in front of him. Xiao Jin, when we first entered here, you did not notice the netherworld flying ants. Now that they have just moved out, they should not be in a dormant state. Listen and see if they are in the cave. The little monkey confidently patted its chest and squeaked, as if saying that it was a piece of cake. Lu Kuan coughed lightly and said, "When we came here, there were 3 forks. When we get there, you can sense it again. Maybe the netherworld flying ant's nest is in the depths of one of the tunnels." Then, the man and monkey quickly ran outside. As Lu Kuan ran, he collected the valuable insect limbs along the way. After a while, they arrived at the entrance of the cave. Xiao Jin knew that Lu Kuan was in a hurry. His ears were constantly emitting golden light. Clearly, he had activated his spirit ear ability to the extreme. They had already explored the middle tunnel, so Xiao Jin could determine whether it was left or right based on the sound in the distance. After a while, the little monkey squeaked and quickly shot toward the right tunnel. "Little guy, slow down." Lu Kuan followed closely behind. Soon, the 2 figures disappeared in the tunnel. After about half an hour, a large number of buzzing sounds came from the dark right tunnel. It was mixed with the irritable and helpless cries of insects and the excited roars of the little monkey. After another hour, Lu Kuan, who was wearing tattered clothes, and a yellow monkey with messy hair rushed out. A large group of netherworld flying ants followed behind them. These netherworld flying ants kept letting out angry cries and crazily attacked the bodies of the man and monkey. Even if their mandibles were broken, they still did not retreat. At this time, Xiao Jin's body had become bigger and stronger. The netherworld flying ants could not do anything to him. The monkey's face was full of excitement and its mouth was letting out provocative cries. Lu Kuan ignored the flying ant. As he ran, he looked at the spirit beast bag on his waist from time to time. His eyes flashed with surprise. Chapter 553. Just as Lu Kuan was sweeping through the caves, a furious roar came from a valley with rich spiritual energy in the south of Tsangzhou. The roar shook the fog in the valley. Then, a purple-black light rushed into the sky and stopped above the valley for a while. Then, it shot straight in the direction of the land of death. Its speed was terrifying, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the horizon. Many cultivators in the valley saw this scene and showed a mixture of fear and reverence. It's the Ancestor, the only nascent soul stage ancestor of our 9 underworld sect. His aura is too terrifying. I don't dare to move at all. Who dares to provoke a nascent soul stage ancestor? These disciples were discussing spiritedly. After seeing this aura, they all showed a yearning look. The 3 core formation stage cultivators who were in seclusion in the valley sensed what was happening outside and came out. They looked in the direction of the nascent soul stage ancestor and their expressions changed. They hurriedly called their disciples to inquire about the situation. A day later, in the north of Tsangzhou, at the top of the Sky Sword Peak, an old man with sword-like eyebrows sat cross-legged in a cave that was rich in spiritual energy. There was a hidden sword chi on his body that gave people a feeling of extreme sharpness. Moreover, the spiritual pressure on his body was terrifying. He was obviously a nascent soul stage cultivator. As if he sensed something, the old man with sword-like eyebrows opened his eyes and revealed a strange look. A green light flashed in his hand and a voice transmission talisman on the restriction outside the cave flew to him. The old man scanned it with his spiritual sense and was surprised. The 9 underworld old demon has actually left the sect. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Quickly inform senior brother. After saying that, the old man turned into a sword light and shot out of the cave. After a while, he came to another cave on the top of the mountain that was even more abundant in spiritual energy. As if knowing the old man's arrival, the restriction of the cave was opened and a voice full of energy came out. Junior brother, I already know about the matter. Come in. The old man with sword-like eyebrows was stunned and then flew in. He saw a dark-skinned middle-aged man sitting at the head of the hall. Although his appearance was very ordinary, his eyes were extremely bright, as if they contained sword light. The spiritual power in his body was extremely strong, much stronger than that of the old man with sword-shaped eyebrows. This person was the great elder of the Heavenly Sword sect, Yu Longfei. He was the person that all the disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect worshipped the most. He reached the foundation establishment stage at the age of 20, the core formation stage at the age of 100, and the nascent soul stage at the age of 300. This kind of talent was something that few disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect could match. Now Yu Longfei had even reached the mid-stage nascent soul realm. In the entire Wei nation, only old demon sure of the miraculous gate had a deeper cultivation than him. However, as a sword cultivator, Yu Longfei's battle prowess was extremely high. Even Elder Stone, with his profound magic, was extremely wary of Yu Longfei. When the old man with sword-shaped eyebrows saw Yu Longfei, he anxiously said, Senior brother Yu, the 9 nether old demon has left the 9 nether sect. This is a good opportunity for the Heavenly Sword sect. Yu Longfei revealed a faint smile and said, I also received the news. However, junior brother, do you know why the 9 nether old demon left the sect? The old man with sword-shaped eyebrows shook his head blankly. Yu Longfei's eyes flashed with a strange light. My spy did not hesitate to use the 1,000-mile talisman to send me a message. He said that the soul tablets of the 3 core formation stage cultivators of the 9 nether sect shattered at almost the same time, including their only mid-stage core formation stage cultivator. When the old man with sword-shaped eyebrows heard this, his body trembled with excitement. He said with ecstasy, Senior brother, what are we waiting for? The spy is fine, which means that the 9 nether sect only has 2 core formation stage cultivators. While they are so weak, we should quickly take action. We only need half a day to destroy the 9 nether sect. Even if the sects of the other prefectures rush over, it will be too late. Yu Longfei's eyes flashed with sword light. He calmly said, "We have been planning for many years for this opportunity. Junior brother Dugu, immediately arrange for the 100 Foundation Establishment Stage disciples to prepare the 1,000 Spirit Sword Array. Also, inform all the Core Formation Stage cultivators to find me at the peak of the Heavenly Sword Peak. Since the 9 Nether sect is so weak and the 9 Nether Old Demon is out alone, we might as well destroy this nascent soul stage cultivator." The old man with sword-shaped eyebrows said excitedly, "Yes, senior brother." After he finished speaking, he turned into a sword light and shot out of the Heavenly Sword Peak. Yu Longfei looked at the clouds outside the cave and muttered, "The 9 Nether sect and my Heavenly Sword sect's 10,000-year agreement has already passed 1,000 years ago. This generation of the 9 Nether sect has a nascent soul stage cultivator. If we attack, we will not be able to destroy them in a short period of time. Instead, it will cause other sects to come to the Tsang prefecture and interfere. Otherwise, my Heavenly Sword sect would have destroyed them long ago. Why would we wait until now?" Now that junior brother Dugu has successfully condensed his nascent soul in another nation, with the sword array formed by me and a core formation stage sword cultivator, even if the 9 Nether Old Demon is proficient in the blood escape technique, he will not be able to escape. Moreover, I have already studied the flaws of the 9 Nether demonic technique. It turned out that the old man with sword-shaped eyebrows was the original core formation stage senior brother of the Heavenly Sword sect. 100 years ago, his cultivation had already reached the perfected core formation stage. Now, he had entered the nascent soul stage without anyone knowing. Then, Yu Longfei's expression became a little heavy. It is said that old demon sure of the miraculous gate is in seclusion to break through to the advanced stage. If he fails, it will be fine. If he succeeds, then the miraculous gate's ambition will spread to the entire Wei nation. Only by unifying the Tsang prefecture and monopolizing the resources of the Tsang prefecture can the Heavenly Sword sect increase its strength. With enough resources, not only will my martial nephews have a greater chance of reaching the nascent soul stage, my cultivation will also improve. When the time comes, even if old demon sure breaks through, with the Heavenly Sword sect as the leader, we will have no need to fear the miraculous gate. Just as Yu Longfei was thinking, over 10 people broke through the air from outside. He said in a low voice, "Come in, all of you." "Yes, great elder." The 10 cultivators outside walked in with serious expressions. Their martial uncle Dugu had already briefly explained the situation and knew that they were going to wage war against the 9 Nether sect. In order to prevent the other sects from interfering, they had to end the battle quickly this time. All the resources of the Tsang prefecture belonged to the Heavenly Sword sect 10,000 years ago. Now that the alliance had lost its effectiveness, they could only destroy the 9 Nether sect that refused to leave. After another 2 days, a purplish-black light appeared in the one-line sky of the land of death. When the light reached the chaotic stone forest, it stopped. The spiritual light dissipated, revealing an extremely ugly and skinny old man. He took out 3 square magic tokens. Spiritual light flashed in his hand and the originally dim black spiritual light on the tokens suddenly brightened. The skinny old man said with an ugly expression, "It seems that this is the place. It has the last breath of an I Shao and the others." Then he looked at the strange stone forest in front of him. "No wonder it took me 3 days to find this place. It turns out that there was an ancient restriction interference. It was caused by a restriction conflict. With the knowledge of a nascent soul stage cultivator and the strange collapse of the stone walls on both sides, he immediately determined the cause. He frowned and said, "Could it be that an I Shao and the others happened to encounter the explosion of the ancient restriction and were destroyed by it? How could it be so coincidental?" However, when the old man released his divine sense to check the surroundings, he shook his head. Chapter 554. Just as the old man was hesitating whether or not to enter the stone forest to investigate, there was a slight explosion from the storage bag on his waist. His expression changed and a cracked jade pendant appeared in his hand. There were faint words flashing on it. The old man revealed a look of disbelief and said, "The Heavenly Sword sect has come out in full force to destroy my 9 underworld sect." "That's impossible. The Heavenly Sword sect has no reason to do this. My 9 underworld sect regularly gives quite a lot of offerings, and there is also the ancient treaty." At this moment, a deep voice resounded in the sky. "The ancient treaty has already lost its effect. It is only right that my Heavenly Sword sect take back the entire Tsang state." When the old man heard this voice, his expression changed greatly. He quickly turned around and discovered that 2 figures had appeared behind him. 2 powerful divine senses with soaring sword intent locked onto him. He cried out involuntarily, "You Longfei Dugufeng?" Then he said in disbelief, "Dugufeng, you've actually entered the nascent soul stage." Dugufeng looked at the stone forest behind the old man and laughed. "The heavens are really helping my Heavenly Sword sect. I didn't think that the ancient restriction here would go out of control and help us block your path. Haha." The skinny old man's heart sank. His body flashed with the power of qi and blood. His entire body was immediately wrapped in a black and red spiritual light. Yu Longfei snorted, "Blood escape technique? If it was anywhere else, you might be able to escape. But here, it's not up to you." Just as he finished speaking, 10 core formation cultivators appeared behind Yu Longfei. It was unknown what kind of concealment method they used, but they were actually not discovered by the 9 underworld sect's nascent soul cultivators. After these 10 core formation cultivators appeared, their bodies released a large amount of spiritual light. All kinds of flying swords and magic treasures quickly flew out from their bodies. These flying swords intertwined in the air and faintly formed a huge formation. Bang! A black and red escape light fiercely collided with the sword formation and let out a huge explosion. The black and red escape light's powerful spiritual pressure and the sword light screen in the sword formation intertwined, creating a powerful airflow that shot out in all directions. The faces of the 10 core formation stage cultivators who were hiding behind the sword array turned pale. However, they were not frightened by this attack. Instead, they increased the amount of mana they channeled into the sword array, causing it to become even thicker. "There's no way out. Old Devil Juyo, today is the day you die." Yu Longfei and Dugufeng had already arrived the instant the sword formation blocked the blood escape technique. They each summoned their flying swords and dharma treasures as their sword chi intertwined and blasted towards the reddish-black light. A demonic saber radiating black light rushed out of the escape light and hurriedly blocked the sword energy. "Damn it, old geezer, you don't even think about succeeding." Soon after, incomparably turbulent fluctuations of battle spread out from the one-line sky. The dense gray yin chi here was dispersed by the terrifying spiritual pressure of the nascent soul stage cultivators. Looking from afar, this place was filled with thick gray fog, and all the undead creatures in the vicinity were scared out of their wits. At the same time, in the land of death, near the Chu country's eastern galloping province, there were 3 flying boats flying at high speed. The boats were filled with many people, and most of them were mortals without any mana fluctuations. In the middle of the flying boat stood a tall and sturdy man with short hair and a square face. It was Lu Kuan. At this moment, he seemed to have sensed something and turned his head to look. However, this place was thousands of miles away from the one-line sky, and he could not see anything at all. He frowned and muttered to himself, "It must be a nascent soul stage cultivator. It seems like that person from the 9 underworld sect has already found the stone forest in the one-line sky. With such fluctuations, could it be that he's dismantling the stone forest's restrictions?" Regardless, it's good that I didn't encounter a nascent soul stage cultivator. Soon after, Lu Kuan revealed a regretful expression and sighed in his heart. It's a pity that an entire cave of ores and materials was wasted. If I knew that this old geezer would take 3 days to find that place, I would have stayed for one more day. Forget it, I can't be too greedy. The harvest this time is already great. With these little guys, I can definitely improve the strength of the body refining pavilion. Thinking of this, Lu Kuan looked at the bulging storage pouches on his waist. Apart from the 3 storage pouches he already had, the rest were obtained from the cave. The severed limbs in the cave filled up 2 storage pouches. These insect limbs can all be used as refining materials for magic tools. In this way, these second-generation disciples don't have to worry about their refining skills. With so many materials, they can definitely improve their refining skills by leaps and bounds. Otherwise, after they enter the sect, they will have to buy a large amount of refining materials. The magic tools refined from insect limbs can also be sold at the treasure pavilion of the Abyss Island. In this way, the body refining pavilion and the treasure pavilion can cooperate to form a kind of sect rule that can help the disciples improve their refining skills. Lu Kuan looked at the 19 second-generation disciples on the 3 airboats and thought to himself, body refining techniques are the foundation for body refining disciples, but they must be proficient in the art of refining. This way they can compare refining techniques and body refining techniques, and it will be easier for their cultivation to improve. Next, there are all kinds of auxiliary technique. Lu Kuan looked at Zhao Qiming inside the airboat, who was reading a book on the basics of refining medicine, and nodded to himself. Currently, the best way to form a system is this method of refining poison. In the future, with Zhao Qiming as the core, it will form the auxiliary techniques of the poison refining branch. This branch will refine all kinds of poisons that are very useful for refining the body. The disciples can all choose to cultivate on the side. To us body cultivators, these poisons are equivalent to the pills that ordinary cultivators use to refine their cultivation. Then, he looked at the remaining sea bear meat in one of the storage bags and smiled slightly. In addition to refining poison, there is also the meat of this high-rank demon beast. Qing Tian and the others have eaten demon beast meat of the 5th rank and above, and their bodies have improved. Moreover, there is no risk of poison, so it is obviously a reliable auxiliary. Unfortunately, demon beasts of the 5th rank and above can only be killed by body cultivators of the treasure bone stage. And for those of the treasure bone stage, even the flesh of a 7th rank demon beast might not be of much use. In this way, the meat of the high-rank demon beast can only be used as a reward in the sect. Lu Kuan silently thought about the configuration of the body refining pavilion in the future. Then, he sensed the talisman in one of the spirit beast bags. The bronze-armored corpse was controlled. The rest are all unorthodox methods, such as using the power of cold een. Therefore, when I go back, I have to study the mysterious cocoon and the bronze-armored corpse. Let's see if I can create a secret place on the island and fill it with the power of cold een to help the disciples' cultivation. Oh right, there is also the pile of nether flying ant eggs. I wonder if they can hatch. These flying ants with strong bite force can be used to refine the body of body cultivators. It turned out that Lu Kuan was looking for the nether flying ant because he wanted to know if there were any nether flying ant eggs. Not to mention the help these flying ants could provide to low-rank body cultivators, these flying ants with the ability to devour were also extremely useful when fighting against cultivators. While he was thinking, Lu Kuan and the others' flying boat had already left the land of death and arrived at the eastern Pool province of the Chu country. Lu Kuan turned around and looked back, murmuring, "When the body refining pavilion is truly powerful, I will come back for revenge." Qi Tian, Xiaoyun, full speed ahead. Yes, master. Chapter 555. 10 days later, all the large and small sects in the Wei Nation, including some aristocratic families, were informed of a shocking piece of news. As one of the 5 major sects in Wei Nation, the Nine Spectres sect, which had a nascent soul stage patriarch, was annihilated within a day. Almost no one was able to escape, and even the nascent soul stage patriarch was killed. At the same time, the Nine Spectres sect branch in the middle ground was also annihilated. The one who did all this was the Heavenly Sword sect, which was located in the same Tsang prefecture as the Nine Spectres sect. The strength displayed by the Heavenly Sword sect terrified the other sects in Wei Nation. The Heavenly Sword sect's great elder, Yu Longfei, had the strength of a mid-stage nascent soul stage. In Wei Nation, perhaps only old Demon Sure could match up to him. At the same time, the Heavenly Sword sect actually had a second nascent soul stage cultivator, Dugufeng. Even though he had just advanced, many nascent soul stage cultivators were wary of him. In addition, the strength displayed by the Heavenly Sword sect's 15 core formation stage cultivators and close to 200 foundation establishment stage cultivators also shocked the nearby sections. With such a powerful Heavenly Sword sect and the even more powerful Miraculous Gate, the Green Moon Temple and Qingyang sect in the Qing prefecture felt a great sense of danger. After receiving the news of the Nine Spectres sect's destruction, the nascent soul stage elders of the 2 sects secretly discussed for 2 days and 2 nights. The 2 sects then formed an alliance to advance and retreat together. To outsiders, they were known as the Green Alliance. In this way, in the entire Wei Nation, other than the Middle Ground, the other 3 prefectures, Tsang Prefecture, Qing Prefecture, and Lu Prefecture, all had a large power holding the fort. The resource-rich middle ground also became more chaotic because of the changes in the major sections. The Miraculous Gate, Heavenly Sword sect, Green Alliance, and even the Qi Nation's blood refining sect had disciples in the middle ground. In order to compete for the resources of the middle ground, the conflict became more and more intense. Gradually, the middle ground of Wei Nation became a place where several sects openly competed. The strongest sects here were the Miraculous Gate and the Blood Refining sect, followed by the Heavenly Sword sect and the Green Alliance. Lastly, it was the major cultivation clans and itinerant cultivators. The middle ground became a scene of chaotic battle. The peaceful era of the Wei Nation hundreds of years ago was long gone. The battle of the Shangqing sect and the destruction of the Yeyang clan were just the beginning. The battle of the Heavenly Sword sect against the 9 Underworld sect had completely ignited the Wei Nation's immortal cultivation world. In a place like the Central Plains, there were cultivators who died every day. Of course, there were also more cultivators who obtained opportunities and entered higher realms. Several sects seemed to have a tacit understanding, and began to regularly arrange for Foundation establishment stage disciples to go to the central continent to fight for resources. However, the scope of the war was limited to the central continent, and only Foundation establishment stage cultivators participated in the war. As for the 3 prefectures outside the central prefecture, they were very peaceful. The powerful Miraculous Gate had no intention of attacking the other prefectures. As for Lu Kuan's group, after entering the state of Chu, they sped along without stopping at all. Lu Kuan had no idea that such a huge change had taken place in the cultivation world of Wei Nation because of his small actions. After another 3 months, they arrived at Shiyuan State. However, Lu Kuan did not fly directly to the chaotic ocean. Instead, he came to the sky above a mountain range near the chaotic ocean. Instead of calling it a mountain range, there were actually only 5 long and narrow mountain ranges. The back of the mountain range faced the chaotic ocean and extended inland. The end of the 5 mountain ranges near the chaotic ocean was connected together, forming a towering mountain peak. Looking down from the sky, the entire mountain range was shrouded in a faint fog. The 5 mountain ranges were like the 5 claws of a giant beast. Therefore, the nearby immortal cultivators called it the 5-Claw Mountain Range. It was precisely because this place was close to the chaotic ocean that the spirit chi was not abundant. Furthermore, there was some demonic chi in the mountain range. As a result, although the Five-Claw mountain range was dangerous and strange, there were not many immortal cultivators stationed here. Occasionally, some low-level cultivators would come here to hunt level 1 demonic beasts. The 3 flying boats quietly floated above the Five-Claw mountain range. Even the mortal cultivators who had seen many large mountains and rivers along the way were still very shocked when they saw this claw-like mountain range. However, Zhao Qingtian and the others were fine. This was because they had to pass through this place on their way out of the Demon Spirit Island, so they did not have much of a reaction. Lu Kuan looked at the Five-Claw mountain range with bright eyes, and then looked at the towering mountain peak in the middle of the Five-Claw mountain range with a smile on his face. Zhao Qingtian controlled his flying boat to come closer. Looking at Lu Kuan's expression, he said thoughtfully, "Master, do you want to build the city you mentioned before here?" Lu Kuan nodded and said, "That's right. Although the spirit chi here is barren, it is enough for the Vajra art. Moreover, there is some demonic chi in this mountain range. The demon luring art that Xiao Jin and I researched can also be used. More importantly, there are very few immortal cultivators here. The most ferocious demonic beasts in the mountain range are only level 1 demonic beasts. It is also very close to our demon spirit island. It is the best place to build a city for immortal cultivators." Zhao Qingtian was a little excited when he heard this. This place was indeed very suitable to build a holy land for immortal cultivators. If their holy city was built on the mountain peak in the middle, they would not be able to borrow strength from the steep mountain wall. Apart from immortal cultivators, ordinary mortal cultivators would have to be at least at the level of a first-rate expert if they wanted to climb up. The heavenly barrier helped them to filter out the heavenly barrier. By the way, Master, when I went to the chaotic ocean in the past, I remember that there were immortal cultivators living on the middle peak. Lu Kuan said lightly, "I know. It is just a small family with a late-stage chi refining cultivator. They covet the fact that there are no other immortal cultivators to disturb them, so they live here. Just send them away. They don't know that if they covet comfort, they will have no hope of entering a higher realm in their lifetime." After that, Lu Kuan called the other disciples and led the 3 flying boats to the highest mountain in the middle. This mountain range was very vast for mortals, but it was nothing for immortal cultivators. Lu Kuan's flying boat quickly arrived at the middle peak and flew to a place with some houses on the mountainside. The people below naturally saw the 3 shining flying boats floating in the air. They all came out of their houses and cried out in surprise. "Tell your family head to come out." Zhao Qingtian stood at the front of the flying boat and said coldly. At the same time, the magic power of a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator spread out from his body, causing those who were only at the mid-stage chief refining stage to show fear. A few of them were so scared that they fell to the ground. After a short while, a gray-haired old man in his 60s flew over on a mid-grade spirit shuttle, trembling with fear. Feeling the pressure of a foundation establishment cultivator, he said with a trembling voice, "Senior, what can I do for you?" Lu Kuan glanced around and said to the late-stage chi refining stage elder, "You have 2 hours to move all your clansmen out of here." Hearing this, the old man was dumbfounded. It could be said that he found this place with great difficulty. His family moved here for more than 20 years, and almost no cultivators paid attention to this place, allowing him to peacefully cultivate to the 10th layer of chi refining, the late stage of chi refining. Who would have thought that a cultivator would ask him to move out? He was a bit reluctant. But then, the old man's eyes suddenly widened. From the corner of his eye, he saw that the burly man who spoke to him wasn't standing on the flying boat, but was instead floating in the air. Flying through the air. A core formation cultivator. The old man was quick-witted and immediately said loudly, "Senior, please don't worry. My family will move out within an hour." Lu Kuan nodded and a light flashed in his hand. A small green leaf magic tool floated towards the old man. I won't take advantage of you. This high-grade flying magic tool is your reward. The old man trembled as he received the seemingly ordinary leaf. Feeling the spiritual power of the high-grade magic tool, he was extremely excited. For someone like him who was greedy for life and afraid of death, a high-grade flying magic tool was definitely a life-saving treasure. He repeatedly bowed and said incoherently, "Thank you, Senior, thank you." "Then why haven't you moved out yet?" "Yes, yes, yes." Chapter 556. The middle peak of the Five Claw Mountain Range was thousands of feet high. Below the mountainside, there was not a single blade of grass. It was all greenish-gray rocks and dirt that had accumulated over countless years. There was not a single bit of greenery, making it look extremely desolate. There was not even the slightest bit of spiritual chi in the lower half of the mountain, not even demonic chi. There was only a trace of demonic chi lingering around, but even for demonic cultivators, this bit of demonic chi was useless. At the mountainside, the soil in the mountain began to give birth to life. All kinds of lush vegetation also appeared. Although the mountain walls were steep, with the interweaving of many trees, it was possible to set up some stone houses on the mountain walls. The green area of the mountainside was where the spiritual chi appeared. Although this amount of spiritual chi was not enough for foundation establishment cultivators, it was still somewhat useful for ordinary chi refinement cultivators. Otherwise, the old man's family would not have chosen to live here. As for the mountainside, as the height increased, the spiritual chi became thinner and thinner, and the vegetation became fewer and fewer. This kind of spiritual chi distribution was very strange. The mountaintop was like the foot of the mountain, with not a single blade of grass growing, and the spiritual chi was extremely scarce. After more than a month of modification by Lu Kuan and the others, the middle peak was very different from before. Except for the 100 feet of lush vegetation at the mountainside, the greenish-gray rocks above had changed beyond recognition. From the mountainside, the 500 feet of mountain walls seemed to have been polished by a giant file, becoming incomparably smooth, with almost no exposed edges or corners. At the same time, the lines on the rock walls were delicate, and there was a faint flicker of a pale yellow light on them. It seemed that the density had greatly increased. The smooth mountain walls continued to the mountaintop, and the sounds of some mortals and conversations gradually came out from the mountaintop. The top of the mountain had been dug out to a depth of nearly 10 feet, forming a huge castle like the crater of a volcano. The 500 feet of smooth mountain walls outside became the walls of the castle. However, on the eastern side of the wall, there was a mountain wall that was about 10 feet wide that wasn't polished and smooth. There were many cracks and protruding edges on it. From top to bottom, it extended all the way from the top to the middle of the mountain where vegetation grew. It was like a natural passageway that was deliberately left behind. With such a terrifying height and steep mountain walls, even the weaker first-rate cultivators among the mortals would not be able to climb to the top. As for the top of the steep passageway, there was a platform about 10 feet long and wide. On the platform stood the only entrance to the castle. The whole castle was thousands of feet high in the clouds and mist, like a celestial city, full of mystery. If ordinary mortals wanted to enter the castle, they could only climb from the foot of the mountain, through the mountainside, and then climb through the steep passageway to the east with their bare hands, and finally enter the castle. Of course, if it were a cultivator, they would only need a low-grade flying magic tool and a cultivation of the middle chi refining stage to easily fly into the castle. Of people. Of Warrior's holy city. At the same time, there were 3 youths standing behind him. They were Zhao Qingtian, Yu Xian, and Huang Xiaoyun. Their eyes were also full of light. Zhao Qingtian suddenly said, "Master, according to the construction method of Warrior's holy city, if mortals want to enter the city, They must have physical strength, endurance, and force exertion skills. Otherwise, they can't climb the cloud-ascending stairs with their bare hands. Huang Xiaoyun lowered his head to look at the steep passageway hidden in the clouds and murmured, 4 top cultivators, even if they fall from a height of 300 to 400 feet, they may lose their lives. If they can persevere and climb the cloud-ascending stairs that are thousands of feet high, their temperament and willpower will be extremely high, completely meeting the requirements of the body-tempering cultivation method. Yu Xian nodded and said softly, "What we need to do now is to spread the name of Warrior's holy city among the top cultivators of the mortal world." Lu Kuan listened to the words of his disciples and then looked at the many disciples and the cultivators of the Iron Fist School who were busy in the city. He said in a deep voice, "This Warrior's holy city is the source of my body refining pavilion's future disciples. It can be said to be the foundation of our future development. I called you here to discuss with you how to develop this Warrior's holy city. Among Master's personal disciples, only the 3 of you are suitable to manage this city. Tell me, how should we develop it?" Hearing Lu Kuan's question, Yu Xian and Huang Xiaoyun revealed a trace of bitterness. They secretly glanced at Lu Kuan, who had a serious expression on his face, and then glanced at their second senior brother, Zhao Qingtian. When Yu Xian was carrying out missions for the Yeyang clan, it was always Zhao Qingtian who came up with ideas. Therefore, when faced with this problem, she subconsciously looked at her second senior brother. Although Huang Xiaoyun at the side had many ideas, they were all despicable means. Otherwise, he would not have brought Pan Yin along and earned himself the strange title of Righteous Devil in the Northern Barren State. When asked about development, of course, they also looked at Zhao Qingtian. Zhao Qingtian saw the expressions of his 2 junior brothers and rubbed his nose. He coughed lightly and said, "Master, you told me about the idea of this city when we were in Huayuan City. So I have been thinking about it on the way back and have some ideas." Lu Kuan was not surprised by his second senior brother's answer. "Tell me about it." Zhao Qingtian turned to look at the 5 mountain ranges outside the middle peak. He did not mention the Warrior's holy city, but said with a serious expression, "Although the body refining pavilion has Master, who is in the treasure bone stage, and 2 core bearing stage uncles and elder Shao, it is nothing in the Chu country. Unless Master reaches the nascent soul stage, only then can you establish a sect in the Chu country openly. Otherwise, as long as it is exposed, Master's body refining technique and the Yeyang clan's psychic puppet technique are likely to attract the covetous eyes of nascent soul stage cultivators. Therefore, before Master reaches the nascent soul stage, the body refining pavilion must be developed in secret." Lu Kuan sighed. "That's right. Back then, the Yeyang clan was not strong enough, and their wealth and weapon refining technique were known by everyone. Therefore, they were destroyed. We must not repeat the same mistake." Zhao Qingtian continued, "The body refinement pavilion has the demon spirit island. In addition, we can change our appearance and restrain our mana, so we won't be discovered easily. However, the Warrior's holy city is different. It is completely exposed to the outside world. If the mortal martial artists inside do something that shocks low-level immortal cultivators, such as killing low-level immortal cultivators with the body of a mortal, then greedy and curious immortal cultivators will definitely come knocking. We are not afraid of chi refining stage cultivators. Even if it is foundation establishment stage immortal cultivators, as long as any one of us is there, we can ignore them. But if they attract the disciples of the Chu country, then it will be troublesome." Lu Kuan looked at Zhao Qingtian, who was speaking with confidence and assurance, and asked curiously, "Qingtian, since you have mentioned the Warrior's holy city's concerns, it seems like you have a solution." Chapter 557. One in the light and one in the dark? That's right. Zhao Qingtian said seriously. The only reason why the Warrior's holy city is exposed to the public is to attract martial artists. This is the only way to find suitable disciples for our body refining pavilion. So on the surface, the warrior's holy city only needs to let the mortal martial artists know that this place can bring them a higher realm. There are many ways to attract them. He paused, then continued, Master, you told me before that the Vajra esoteric art and the improved spirit-controlling celestial artifact can allow mortal martial artists to display the strength of low-level cultivators. They can even kill late-stage chi refinement cultivators. But we must not use this to attract mortal martial artists. Otherwise, we will attract the attention of a large number of cultivators. Zhao Qingtian looked at the mortal martial artists in the castle and said slowly, Actually, for those top martial artists, what they seek is a higher realm. The strongest martial artists in the mortal world are called super expert. But Li Qianfeng and the other two, as well as the Zhao families Zhao Wei and his son, are far stronger than this realm. So we need to create a higher realm for martial artists. Disciple is not talented, but I have thought of a name. It will be called Martial Saint, the Saint of Martial Arts. Martial Saint, Warrior's Holy City, Lu Kuan muttered a few times. The light in his eyes grew brighter and brighter. Finally, he laughed loudly. Good Qingtian, you are indeed smart. As long as the description of the Martial Saint realm is released, the mortal martial artists who are obsessed with a higher realm will definitely be fascinated. Then, release the location of the warrior's holy city where the martial saints gather. Many top martial artists will definitely come. At the same time, when cultivators hear this news, they will only be disdainful. Because in the eyes of cultivators, martial artists are like ants. No matter how strong they are, they can't break the magical power shield, let alone withstand the lowest level fireball attack. Yu Xian and Huang Xiaoyun finally understood the brilliance of Zhao Qingtian's move. To cultivators, mortal martial artists were still mortal no matter how strong they were. They were not on the same level as cultivators. If the immortal cultivators heard about the martial sage realm, their first reaction would definitely be disdain. They would even sneer in their hearts, thinking that it was just an ant that had become stronger. However, it was completely different for martial artists. Due to the fact that mortal martial artists did not know about the higher realms, as well as their fear of immortal cultivators, they would be filled with hope for the higher realms of martial artists, especially those top martial artists. When Zhao Qingtian heard Lu Kuan's praise, he became excited and continued, Master, I think we can use the 5th level of the Vajra esoteric art as a watershed. Once you reach the 5th level, you can become a martial saint. That's because once you reach this level, you will begin to train your physical body's nerves and will be able to sense the consciousness of low-level immortal cultivators. On this floor, I can also practice the soul-sensing technique of the body refining pavilion. I'm almost as good as an immortal cultivator. Lu Kuan nodded and said, The 5th level of the Vajra esoteric art is the initial stage of the martial sage realm. Then, the 7th level is the peak of the martial sage realm. Once you reach the peak of the martial sage realm, with the help of the improved spirit-controlling celestial artifact and the 5 elements fist technique, you can definitely fight against chi refining stage cultivators. He patted Zhao Qingtian's shoulder hard and said happily, Good. In the future, the martial sage sacred city will be open to the public with the goal of cultivating martial sages. The goal is to let the top martial artists enter this extremely high realm. Qingtian, you will be in charge of this. While they were talking, a little yellow monkey jumped onto the city gate in a few flashes and scuttled onto Lu Kuan's head. It grabbed his ears and squeaked, as if it could feel Lu Kuan's mood and was also very excited. Zhao Qingtian smiled bitterly and rubbed his sore shoulders, saying, Master, this disciple hasn't finished yet. Lu Kuan touched Xiao Jin's forehead and his eyes lit up, saying, That's right, you said that one is in the light and the other is in the dark. Now that you've finished the light part, what about the dark part? Zhao Qingtian coughed lightly and said, We will first screen the martial artists who have reached the top of the mountain and remove those who do not have the right intentions. Then we will see if there are any with spiritual root. If there are, we will secretly keep an eye on them and will not accept them as disciples for now. After that, we will impart the incomplete azure water technique to all the martial artists. Then, in the process of these people cultivating the azure water technique, we will pick out those martial artists who have high martial arts aptitude and wholeheartedly pursue the realm of martial arts to be the core and impart the complete Vajra esoteric art to them. Of course, martial artists with spiritual roots who meet the requirements will become disciples of the body refining pavilion. The rest will become the core martial artists of the martial sage sacred city. Of course, as long as they start cultivating the complete Vajra esoteric art, they cannot be exposed outside. They need to go to the lowest level of the city, which is the mountainside, to cultivate. You mean to send these core martial artists to a secret place? Zhao Qingtian said affirmatively, "That's right." He clenched his fist and said, "Master, I know that you want to use the martial sage sacred city to cultivate a large number of mortal martial artists with low-level cultivator combat strength. Only martial artists who have reached the large success stage of the Vajra esoteric art can do this. Although their combat strength is only at the chi refinement stage, if there are many of them, it can greatly increase the strength of the body refining pavilion. These people without spiritual roots who have cultivated the complete Vajra esoteric art are the low-level cultivator combat strength that our sect needs to cultivate." At this point, Zhao Qingtian suddenly asked, "Master, how do you think martial artists who have reached the large success stage of the Vajra esoteric art can truly match the combat strength of cultivators?" Lu Kuan said without hesitation, "Of course, it's by constantly fighting. If they have enough combat experience, they can even kill martial artists who have reached the large success stage of the Vajra esoteric art." Then Lu Kuan thought of something and said in surprise, "Are you thinking of?" Zhao Qingtian did not answer. Instead, he looked at the three siblings and said, "Mortal martial artists who have reached the large success stage of the Vajra esoteric art only have spiritual chi in their bodies. It's difficult for cultivators to detect them. Why don't we make full use of this concealment ability?" Lu Kuan thought of the enemies he had faced over the years and murmured, "That's right. We body cultivators don't necessarily have to face our opponents head-on. We can make full use of our concealment ability to assassinate cultivators." When Huang Xiaoyun heard this, his face was full of agreement. He looked toward the northeast and said excitedly, "I understand what senior brother means. It's just right. The northern Barren State is the closest to here. It's the best place for combat. Back then, I ambushed demonic cultivators in the northern Barren State. Otherwise, my combat experience would not have increased so quickly." Wonderful. On the surface, we attract top-notch martial artists and select suitable disciples for the sect. On the other hand, we secretly train mortal martial artists so that they have the combat power of the chi refinement stage. Killing two birds with one stone. Lu Kuan listened to the words of his disciples and did not speak. His eyes showed that he was deep in thought. After a full 15 minutes, he took a deep breath and said, "If that's the case, the body refining pavilion might as well set up a dark hall." Dark hall. Zhao Qingtian and the others looked at Lu Kuan in confusion. Even Xiao Jin looked puzzled. Lu Kuan said in a low voice, "Qingtian's idea reminded me that it's not just these mortal martial artists. The disciples of the body refining pavilion also need combat experience. But if the cultivation world knows that a large number of cultivators with strong physical bodies have appeared, those traditional cultivators will definitely be interested in our technique. They might even attract those nascent soul stage cultivators. Moreover, if the news of our strong physical bodies is leaked, I'm afraid that some of the overseas monster clans will find trouble with us," he said with a serious face. "So I've decided to set up the body refining pavilion's dark hall. The Dark Hall will teach all kinds of concealment techniques and assassination methods. All disciples must train in the Dark Hall. As for how long each realm needs to stay in the Dark Hall and what kind of missions they need to do, I still need time to think about it carefully. Then he said to the 3 disciples, the warrior saint's city will develop according to Qingtian's plan. It will be divided into one open and one dark. Qingtian, go back and arrange for Li Qianfeng and the others to spread the news of the warrior saint's city and the warrior saint's city in the Xiuan state and see how it works. Yu Xian and Shui will be in charge of the selection of martial artists to enter the city. When the core martial artists of the warrior saint's city reach the 7th level of the Vajra esoteric art, they will be promoted to outer disciples of the body refining pavilion's Dark Hall. As for how to assign missions to these outer disciples and teach them concealment and assassination methods, I'll leave it to you, Xiaoyun. Yes, master. When Huang Xiaoyun heard that he was in charge of the outer disciples of the Dark Hall, he was especially excited and immediately agreed. When I return to the Monster Spirit Island, I'll refine a few spiritual controlling artifacts. Also, Chapter 558. Lu Kuan's eyes suddenly became greedy as he said, "Our aptitudes are ordinary. I'm afraid we don't have much chance to build a foundation. Let's create this warrior's holy city and develop some martial artist forces. At least we can dominate the secular world through martial artists." At the side, Zhao Qingtian and the others had faces full of agreement as they nodded in agreement. However, at this time, they were slightly nervous. The muscles and nerves in their body trembled slightly as they sensed 2 powerful divine senses paying attention to them. They began to discuss how to recruit martial artists and how to make these martial artists work for them. Their words fully displayed the mentality of low-level cultivators who were infatuated with the power of the secular world. Sher Chao and Pan Yen, who were casting spells below, stopped and directed the martial artists to repair the building. After a short while, a huge blood-red flying boat appeared in the white clouds high in the sky. 10 or so cultivators were sitting on it. They were extremely fast. They passed by the 5-Claw mountain range and sped towards the north. Lu Kuan and the others pretended to be amazed and looked at the flying boat passing by in the sky. They seemed to be very envious of the cultivators who had a high-level flying magic tool. Lu Kuan quietly activated his golden eyes and looked at the flying boat. After taking a closer look, he was a little surprised. Late-stage core formation. Under Lu Kuan's golden eye divine ability, he immediately saw that there were 2 similar red-robed old men standing at the head of the flying boat. Moreover, their spiritual power was extremely strong, much stronger than an Ai Shao whom he had seen before. Obviously, the 2 red-robed old men passing by were both late-stage core formation cultivators. The reason why Lu Kuan transmitted his voice just now was that his physical nerves were warning him that a powerful divine sense was investigating here. Since he broke through to the bone treasure stage, his physical body seemed to have entered a new realm. Although the strongest part of the body was the bones, the other muscles, organs, and nerves were much stronger than the body tempering stage. Therefore, the extremely sensitive nerves of the physical body felt something strange at the first moment. Fortunately, the furthest range of the divine sense was unable to accurately determine the strength of the cultivation, which gave Lu Kuan the opportunity to warn the others. What the 2 late core formation cultivators discovered was merely a group of low-level cultivators who had lost their will to cultivate and were immersed in the mortal world. In the eyes of a core formation cultivator, a chi condensation cultivator was merely an ant-like existence. After a sweep of their divine sense, they would ignore them. Under the control of a cultivator in the advanced stage of the core formation stage, the blood-red flying boat did not slow down in the slightest despite carrying more than 10 cultivators. Like a red line, it pierced through the blue sky. Soon, the blood-red flying ship disappeared from sight. However, Lu Kuan and the others did not relax and continued talking. After a while, It wasn't until Xiao Jin started to squeak that Lu Kuan finally relaxed. He said, "It's okay. They're already 30 li away. They're beyond the range of a late core formation cultivator's divine sense." At this moment, Xiao Jin's ears trembled slightly as a golden light flashed on them. The monkey's face suddenly revealed a look of contemplation as its paws unconsciously grabbed onto Lu Kuan's hair. "Xiao Jin, what's wrong?" Squeak, squeak. Lu Kuan asked curiously, "You said you have an impression of those two people." Xiao Jin nodded and scratched his ears and cheeks as if he was still thinking. Zhao Qingtian interrupted, "Senior brother, your spirit ears are amazing, but your eyesight is much worse than Master's. If you have an impression, could it be that you've heard their voices?" When the little monkey heard this, an idea flashed through his mind. He immediately cried out excitedly and gestured with his hands. Lu Kuan's expression changed drastically as he said in disbelief, "You said that these two people are the Li brothers of the Red Refining sect." Squeak, squeak. Hearing Xiao Jin's description, Lu Kuan's expression was very ugly as he said, "It seems that their appearance at the edge of the chaotic sea and the sea of death back then was not a coincidence. This place is not far from the chaotic sea. A core formation cultivator would not come here for no reason. There must be a purpose. No, I want to know where they are going." Lu Kuan's expression was serious. He turned his head and said to Zhao Qingtian and the others who were somewhat puzzled, "Before I return, continue to stay here and build the castle. Pay attention to hiding your cultivation." After saying that, he took Xiao Jin and turned into a dazzling purple light, shooting towards the direction where the blood-colored flying ship disappeared. His speed was not much slower than a late core formation cultivator. With the help of Xiao Jin's spirit ears, he could completely hang outside the range of the enemy's divine sense. He could also eavesdrop on the enemy's conversation through Xiao Jin. It could be said that without Xiao Jin's ability, Lu Kuan would not have been able to design and kill an intermediate core formation cultivator like an Ai Xiao when he had just entered the bone treasure stage. Seeing Lu Kuan leave, Zhao Qingtian and the others inexplicably felt a little uneasy. However, they still obeyed his instructions and continued to build the warriors' holy city. Right now, the castle was only completed with walls and basic buildings. The interior of the mountain had not been opened up yet. After all, the spirit energy at the mountainside was more abundant, and there were still more than 30 floors to build. At this moment, on the shore of the chaotic ocean, the blood-colored flying ship was flying in the air. The blood-colored flying light was very conspicuous in the yellow and white fog on the surface of the ocean. At the front of the flying ship, there was a light black barrier enveloping two late core formation cultivators. Their faces were similar. They were the Li brothers of the Red Refining sect that Xiao Jin mentioned. The eldest Li brother looked at the disciples on the flying ship and said indifferently, "Second brother, in the past few decades, this is already the 4th batch of disciples, right?" The second Li brother nodded and said, "Yes, big brother. Currently, there are more than 50 people cultivating the Red Refining Devil technique. Among them, there are more than 10 Foundation establishment disciples. That Devil's Cave can be said to be our sect's treasure ground. Even us brothers have successfully broken through to the late core formation stage after cultivating the new Red Refining Devil technique. Our strength has greatly increased." The eldest Li brother's eyes flashed. "Apart from us brothers, our sect's greatest harvest is the 3 junior brothers who have just entered the core formation stage. This Red Refining Devil technique is truly terrifying. Each of them only needs to collect the blood essence of 10 cultivators above the late Foundation establishment stage. Together with the secret technique of the Devil technique, they can easily succeed in forming their core." The second Li brother sighed with emotion. "I didn't expect Tianrenjia to bring such a big change to our sect. Even us brothers have the opportunity to enter the nascent soul stage." The eldest Li brother's eyes flashed with a strange light. You and I both know that ancient devil cultivators are ruthless and selfish people. I don't believe that this guy doesn't have his own purpose. The second son of the Lee family frowned and said, "But big brother, Marshall uncle had a deal with Tianrenjia, and he also made him swear on the oath stone. Even if there are other purposes, it has nothing to do with our red refining sect." The eldest Lee brother shook his head and said, "Even so, we still have to take some precautions. Now that us brothers have entered the late core formation stage, even if we face him, we have a certain amount of confidence." The second Lee brother revealed a bit of confidence and said, "That's right. Although this red refining devil technique was improved and taught by him, the secret technique of us brothers is very powerful. If we really fight him, he may not necessarily be our opponent." The eldest Lee brother nodded and looked at the chaotic ocean. He said in a deep voice, "Tianrenjia hid some things from us, but we also did the same." The second Lee brother chuckled. For example, Tianrenjia asked us to investigate the chaotic ocean. He didn't know that we had already discovered a mysterious restriction a year ago. We also determined the location of that mysterious restriction. It's right above the Devil's Den. The eldest Lee brother's eyes flashed. This restriction's location is strange and its aura is strange. It means that it's very likely to be related to the restriction in the Devil's Den. After we settle this group of disciples, we'll go there and study it carefully. Chapter 559. When the Lee brothers were talking, they used a soundproof shield. With their strength of the late core formation stage, unless there was a nascent soul stage cultivator spying on them, they wouldn't be able to hear their conversation. However, when the blood-colored flying boat arrived at the Sea of Death, they seemed to be a little afraid and kept quiet. Although the Lee brothers were quite confident in themselves, Tianrenjia was somewhat unfathomable in their eyes. In these years, just the few demonic secret techniques that Tianrenjia casually taught them were very profound. Although Tianrenjia hadn't reached the nascent soul stage, the Lee brothers were very afraid of his various demonic secret techniques. However, the two of them didn't know that there was a cultivator who was also in the core formation stage, who silently followed them all the way and even listened to their conversation. Soon, the Lee brothers arrived at their destination. Wrapped in blood-colored spiritual light, the flying boat dived into the sea. After another quarter of an hour, Lu Kuan, who was hiding with Xiao Jin, appeared on the surface of the sea here. Looking at the calm surface of the Sea of Death, Lu Kuan calculated the distance from the seaside and firmly remembered this place in his mind. Then, he returned the way he came without looking back. Lu Kuan, who was flying rapidly in the air, cold sweat on his forehead, was not blown away by the wind under the protection of the escape light. Instead, it was getting more and more. Tianrenjia didn't die. Ancient demonic cultivator. Red refining demonic technique. The conversation between the Lee brothers that he learned from Xiao Jin made Lu Kuan drip with cold sweat. He didn't expect that Tianrenjia, who was blown into two by him on the Demon Island, was still alive. According to the Lee brothers, it seemed that he was possessed by the soul of an ancient demonic cultivator. Not only that, but this person also perfected the red refining demonic technique. Not only that, it seemed that the reason why the Lee brothers could enter the late core formation stage was also because he modified the technique. Perhaps the 10 great sects didn't know that in the decades after the end of the Demon Island, the strength of the red refining sect had greatly increased. Not only did the Lee brothers enter the late core formation stage, but the sect also had 3 more core formation stage cultivators. Plus, these completion-leveled cultivators were practicing the famous red magic technique from 10,000 years ago. It was a technique that ignored all bottlenecks. As long as one had enough blood, they could break through to the next realm. Damn it, as far as I know, the small realms of the Scarlet Refining Devil technique are very difficult to cultivate. How did this Scarlet Refining sect have a core formation cultivator so quickly? Lu Kuan shook his head and gritted his teeth. Could it be the Devil's Den that they mentioned? What's even more terrifying is that the Li brothers have already discovered the Demon Spirit Island. The Demon Spirit Island is actually above the Devil's Den. Lu Kuan's forehead wrinkled as he tried to think of a way to deal with it. Although he had created his own body cultivation method and entered the Bone Treasure stage, which was an incredible physical body realm, he had just entered it. Recently, he had been busy with the body refining pavilion and had not been able to calm down and think about his future path. Currently, the only method he could use to kill completion-leveled cultivators was the explosive power of the long-armed giant ape. With the addition of the long-armed giant ape's terrifying power, his explosive power was at least 300,000 pounds. It was completely equivalent to the attack of a late-stage completion-leveled cultivator. However, Lu Kuan had just entered the Bone Treasure stage. All of his bones were still in the process of being nurtured. Just like how a core formation cultivator needed to nurture their life source magic weapon, the more time it took to nurture it, the more powerful it would become. Unfortunately, Lu Kuan's bones were a lot weaker than normal core formation level magic weapons. Although his attack power was strong, there was a possibility that he would be damaged if he clashed with magic weapons. Therefore, the current him did not have the slightest confidence that he could kill the famous Li brothers in Chu. This won't do. I need to refine a spirit-channeling magic weapon in a short period of time. Only with this kind of weapon can I fight against a late-stage completion-leveled cultivator. Lu Kuan seriously pondered. He changed his flying light and directly flew towards the chaotic ocean. This was the border between the Dead Sea and the Chaotic Sea, so the distance between the two wasn't very far. With Lu Kuan flying at full speed, it only took him a quarter of an hour to reach the invisible restriction where the Demon Spirit Island was located. Personally experiencing the close distance between the two, Lu Kuan felt as if there were needles on his back. Right now, my only advantage is that I'm in the dark, Lu Kuan muttered. A command medallion appeared in his hand. With a flash of white light, it disappeared. After entering Demon Spirit Island, he saw the restriction around the spirit descending platform. He worriedly said, "This level of restriction won't be able to stop late-stage core formation cultivators." Fortunately, even nascent soul cultivators would find it difficult to break through the invisible restriction outside. He formed a hand seal and opened the restriction. Then, he shot towards the center of Demon Spirit Island. Looking at the island that was being built more and more like a large sect, Lu Kuan felt a sense of pressure. With the emergence of the second generation of disciples and the martial saint city, the body refining pavilion gradually embarked on the path of development. The cornerstone of all of this was the treasured land of Demon Spirit Island. I won't let anyone take away this place and hinder the development of the body refining pavilion. Lu Kuan summoned Qin Yushu and the others to the discussion hall outside. He told them about the conversation between the Li brothers. Everyone felt a sense of crisis. If the people of the Red Refining sect found out that Demon Spirit Island contained such pure spirit energy and discovered the secret of the Demon Spirit token, even if they could escape with their lives, they would definitely not be able to keep the island. Qin Yushu sat on a stone bench and fiddled with a green feather fan. He saw Lu Kuan's determined gaze and closed his feather fan. "Junior Marshal Brother, seeing your expression, could it be that you have a plan?" On the side, Lu Xiao and Zhu Xiaofeng also looked at Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan sighed. Listening to the Li brothers' conversation, they will hide this secret in their hearts and won't tell others. They want to study it alone. However, even old Ancestor Fong took a long time to discover the secret of this restriction. They definitely won't be able to find it in a short time. The only thing I'm worried about now is that the two of them will be like the old Ancestor back then and coincidentally get hit by the chaotic storm into Demon Spirit Island. Qin Yushu shook his head. That shouldn't be the case. Junior Marshal Brother, you have been in seclusion for many years. You might not have noticed it, but ever since you encountered the chaotic storm and discovered the restriction, there have been fewer chaotic storms here. Even if there are, they won't be near Demon Spirit Island. Moreover, the intensity of the storm has decreased a lot. Lu Kuan was slightly taken aback. If that's the case, then we still have time. Then he said with a serious expression, Senior Marshal Brothers, the only way now is to kill the Li brothers, then deal with the people of the Red Refining Sect and destroy that demon's den. According to the Li brothers, the demon's den is located below Demon Spirit Island. The entrance of the demon's den is very close to Demon Spirit Island. With the Red Refining Sect on the side, we can only destroy the demon's den. Otherwise, we won't be able to sleep and eat in peace. Lu Kuan clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. However, it's still a bit difficult for me to kill 2 late-stage core formation cultivators with my current strength. Unless I have a weapon of the spiritual magic treasure level, I'll have some confidence. Qin Yushu frowned and said, But Junior Marshal Brother, we discussed before. In addition to using the Silver Dragon Meteorite iron as the main material, we also need top water, fire, and wood attribute materials, as well as extremely rare thunder attribute materials. We only have the water attribute materials of the Sea Bear and Junior Marshal Brothers bracelet that is suspected to be made of demon soul wood. We don't have any thunder or fire attribute materials. Moreover, even if we have the spiritual jade pendant as a reference, it's extremely difficult to refine a spiritual magic treasure in a short time. We might even damage the materials. Chapter 560. Ding. Ding. Just as Qin Yushu was feeling vexed over his lack of cultivation, a yellow bracelet and a giant purple sword fell to the ground. The 2 treasures had complex patterns on them, emitting a gentle yet dazzling light. The aura of these 2 top-notch treasures attracted everyone's attention, especially Qin Yushu. His eyes flashed with surprise as he stared at the 2 treasures. The lightning attribute sword is very dense. It must have been nurtured by a core formation stage cultivator for hundreds of years. After other core formation stage cultivators refined it, even if they couldn't unleash its full power, its power would still be stronger than normal treasures. The patterns on the bracelet are so complex, and it doesn't have the imprint of a cultivator. Could it be another psychic treasure? Ever since Qin Yushu and Lu Kuan worked together to create a complete set of treasures, although his cultivation level had yet to reach the core formation stage, his knowledge of treasures was no less than a veteran core formation stage cultivator. In addition, in the past few years, other than concentrating his spiritual energy to prepare for the bottleneck of the core formation stage, he spent the rest of his time researching the psychic puppet technique and other records of the crafting peak. Therefore, his level of crafting was much higher than Lu Kuan's. He only needed to roughly observe to understand the value of these 2 treasures. Lu Kuan sighed, Junior's luck is not bad this time. You killed the 9 Spectres Gates intermediate core formation stage cultivator, and I shall. These 2 treasures were the trump cards of the 9 Spectres Gates number 1 core formation stage cultivator. In addition to the material and the power of the magic treasure itself, that thunder attribute sword can also release top-notch lightning magic. Junior Brother guesses that this magic treasure is most likely refined from a thunder attribute treasure. Once we break it down, then we will have the most important material for a psychic magic treasure. After all, the psychic treasure we want to create only needs to unleash the full power of my lightning attribute. Qin Yushu nodded his head and looked at the bracelet again. His eyes shone with a strange light. Junior Brother, in that case, all that's left is a fire attribute material. Also, this psychic magic treasure should be somewhat different from the psychic jade pendant from before. From what I can see, the miniature array patterns on it are more complicated. It seems like it has more than one ability. Lu Kuan looked at the bracelet on the ground and nodded. That's right. This magic weapon is called the Nightmare Spirit Bracelet. After refining it, Junior Brother discovered that it has two magical powers, both related to defense. Even though my chi is only at the beginning stage of the core formation stage, which is not enough to activate this bracelet, my chi is strong. Relying on my chi and blood, I can barely release the first spell. This spell will form a thick protective aura around my body. Not only will it be able to defend against the powerful attacks of the late stage of the core formation stage, it will also be able to stop the enemy's magical weapon. It's extremely powerful, but its only weakness is that it can be broken by a large number of low-level spells. I can't release the second spell, but I can faintly sense that this spell enlarges the entire Nightmare Spirit Bracelet and turns it into a physical body for defense. The first spell is already so powerful. One can only imagine how powerful the second spell will be. Qin Yushu murmured, a psychic magic treasure with two spells. Even for nascent soul stage cultivators, it will be of great help. Back then, even the uncles found it difficult to refine such a treasure. Qin Yushu slapped his head and said, I understand Junior Brother's meaning. This psychic magic treasure can be a great reference for us. This way, if we work together, we will have a greater chance of refining a psychic magic treasure. On the side, Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao looked at the bracelet and revealed expressions of shock. Generally speaking, psychic magic treasures only had one spell. With each additional spell, the difficulty of refining it would increase exponentially. With the bracelet as a reference and Lu Kuan's psychic puppet technique, even the lowest level of psychic magic treasure would not be a problem for them. It must be known that the Yeyang clan's psychic puppet was made from several top-level psychic magic treasures. Although Lu Kuan and the others could not refine a psychic puppet, it was still very possible for them to refine a single-purpose psychic magic treasure. Lu Kuan waved his hand and put away the two magic treasures. He said seriously, time is of the essence. We can't research here. We have to quickly pack up and leave. The Li brothers could arrive at any time. It's not a good time to fight. As for how Junior Brother will deal with the Li brothers, we will talk about it on the way. When the others heard this, their expressions became heavy. Not only would the Li brothers be researching outside the restriction, but the strange Devil's Cave was also very likely under Demon Spirit Island. If they didn't deal with these two, Qin Yushu and the others would not be able to peacefully cultivate on Demon Spirit Island. After a brief discussion, they returned to their respective caves and packed up their valuables. Then, Lu Kuan took away all the Black Mountain apes in the demonic Qi area. For safety's sake, he also took away the demonic soul wood that had been revived. This kind of spiritual wood could survive for many years on the Black Mountain Apes Island. Temporarily putting it in a storage pouch would not affect it. Most of the little monkey of the Black Mountain Ape clan had entered the demonic beast realm with the help of the dense demonic qi. Fortunately, Lu Kuan and the others had prepared a lot of spirit beast pouches and put away all the Black Mountain Ape. Moreover, Dahe was a Class 5 demonic beast that had awakened its innate ability. It was very powerful and would be of great help in the upcoming battle. They only spent an incense stick's worth of time to pack everything up and quickly left the Demon Spirit Island that they treated as their sect. The few of them carefully appeared outside the barrier of Demon Spirit Island. They didn't see the Li brothers, which made them sigh in relief. After quickly leaving the chaotic ocean, they first went to the Five Claw Mountains to meet up with Zhao Qingtian and the others. They told the first generation of body cultivator disciples everything. They also told them to prepare for battle. From the Li brothers, they knew that there were many Foundation Establishment stage demonic cultivators in the Devil's Cave. These people all cultivated the red refining demonic arts, which had extremely strong combat power. Zhao Qingtian and the others needed to participate in the battle together to deal with the red refining sect disciples hidden in the Devil's Cave. Lu Kuan asked them to stay in the warrior's holy city to prepare for battle and to guide the second generation of body cultivator disciples in their cultivation. Next, Lu Kuan and the others changed their appearance and flew in the direction of the Abyss City. In order to deal with the Li brothers and even destroy the Red Refining Sect's Devil's Cave, they needed the guest elder of the Treasure Pavilion, Xiao Hongfei, to act together. With a set of natal magic treasures that had been nurtured for decades and pure mana, Xiao Hongfei's battle prowess was comparable to that of a late core formation cultivator. With Lu Kuan's protection, he was able to unleash the full potential of his metal-type magic treasures. As for how to persuade this arrogant guest elder, Lu Kuan had a lot of confidence. This was because as long as he collected the top fire attribute materials, he could start refining the psychic magic weapon. When Xiao Hongfei witnessed Lu Kuan successfully refining the psychic magic weapon, as long as he promised to refine such a top treasure, this guest elder would definitely make a move. The temptation of a psychic magic weapon to a core formation stage cultivator was no less than any top medicinal pill. If nothing unexpected happened, the main force to deal with the Li brothers would be Lu Kuan, Xiao Hongfei, and Dahe, the gifted Black Mountain Ape. As for Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao, they had not been in the core formation stage for long. The power of their magic weapons was not strong, so they could just watch from the side. Therefore, Lu Kuan was most anxious to get his hands on a top-notch fire attribute material. With the help of the psychic magic weapon, Lu Kuan believed that the strength of the early bone treasure body cultivator could be fully unleashed, and he would not be afraid of the late core formation stage cultivators. Chapter 561. Overseas Abyssal Island. In the hall on the second floor of the Abyssal Auction House, there were over 20 cultivators of all shapes and sizes. Although there weren't many of them, each of their movements carried a great aura. They were clearly all cultivators at the core formation stage and above. Standing on the high platform in front of them was an elderly man. He stroked his goatee and smiled at the crowd below. Fellow Taoists, the next item to be auctioned is a refining material. He clapped his hands and a beautiful mortal woman beside him walked up with a white jade plate. The old man lifted the cloth covering the plate and narrowed his eyes. This material is the fiery sunstone. Hearing the words, fiery sunstone, many cultivators below the platform revealed expressions of surprise. They extended their spiritual sense towards the plate and carefully observed the fist-sized stone that was similar to charcoal and emitted heat. It really is the fiery sunstone. It seems to be made of the best material. The old man proudly said, "This fiery sunstone was accidentally discovered by a rogue cultivator in an underwater volcano. It is a genuine top-grade fire attribute material. In addition to being the main material for a fire attribute magic treasure, it can also be added to a magic treasure that has already been formed. Regardless of whether it is a cultivator who cultivates a fire attribute cultivation method or another cultivation method, this fiery sunstone is a top-grade material. The starting bid is 500,000 spirit stones. Each bid must not be lower than 10,000 spirit stones." As soon as the old man's voice fell, the cultivators below began to call out bids. 550,000. 580,000. 600,000. Haha, fiery sunstone. With this material, the power of my sky fire saber will definitely increase. 700,000 spirit stones, Dawa sky fire, will take it. A bald, oily, and fierce-looking man laughed loudly. At the same time, he looked at the people who called out bids with an unruly gaze. When those people met the bald man's gaze, their hearts trembled. Thinking of the rumors about this person, they all lowered their heads. Although this Dawa Skyfire was a rogue cultivator, his cultivation was at the peak of the core formation stage. In addition to his profound magic power, this person also cultivated a type of mystical fire. Its power was so great that even a late core formation cultivator would be wary of it. Furthermore, this person was very close to one of the 10 great sects, the Blazing Sun sect. There were rumors that the Blazing Sun sect had already roped him in as a guest elder. With this layer of relationship, even the core formation stage cultivators of the various great sects were unwilling to provoke this person. At this time, the core formation stage cultivators participating in the auction were all aware of Daoist sky fire. Adding on the fact that 700,000 spirit stones was not a small sum to most core formation stage cultivators, no one continued to bid. When Taoist Sky Fire saw this, he laughed and said, "Since no one is bidding anymore, why don't you start the countdown, Taoist Tian? Daoist Sky Fire, Daoist Daoist, bid, Daoist Daoist, Daoists Daoists Daoist, Daoist bid. S callings, 700,000 going twice." Just as Daoist Sky Fire's gaze was getting more and more heated, a light voice was heard, 750,000. When Daoist Sky Fire heard this voice, he immediately turned his head and looked at a square-faced middle-aged man sitting in the corner. This man had an extraordinary temperament. He wore a light golden robe and had a string of golden bracelets on his wrists that flashed with a faint golden light. Daoist Sky Fire said in a strange tone, "I was wondering who it was. So it's Daoist Xiao from the Treasure Pavilion. Why, when did Daoist Xiao change to a fire element technique?" The middle-aged man faintly said, "Fellow Daoist Heavenly Flame, I bought it from the Treasure Tool Pavilion. Naturally, it's for refining tools. If fellow Daoist wants it, please continue to raise the price." Daoist Sky Fire heard this and sneered, "Daoist Xiao really knows how to joke. If your Treasure Pavilion had the ability to refine treasures, then why would you be suppressed by the 1,000 Treasures Pavilion?" The middle-aged man ignored him and turned to the old man on the stage. "Daoist Tian, you should continue to count down." Daoist Sky Fire gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, I bid 800,000. Daoist Xiao, continue to bid if you have the ability." The middle-aged man glanced at the bald man and said without changing his expression, 900,000. 950,000. 1,000,000. Daoist Xiao Yu. Daoist Sky Fire's aura surged and his expression was extremely ugly. However, he seemed to have thought of something and hesitated but did not continue to bid. When the old man on the stage saw that someone was competing with Daoist Sky Fire, he was already laughing in his heart. He said happily, 1,000,000 going once, double quotes, 1,000,000 going twice, 1,000,000 going thrice. Deal. The old man cupped his fists at the middle-aged man. The latter threw out a bulging storage bag. The old man scanned it with his divine sense and sent the fiery sun stone to the middle-aged man with a satisfied expression. "This fiery sun stone has been bid for by Daoist Xiao. Rest assured, there are many treasures that are not inferior to the fiery sun stone. I believe everyone will be able to gain something." The surrounding cultivators saw that the middle-aged man had won the fiery sun stone and then looked at Daoist Sky Fire's ugly expression. Many of them revealed looks of anticipation, as if they were happy to see a conflict between the two. The middle-aged man's identity was not a secret to the core formation cultivators who frequented the Abyss City. He was the person behind the scenes of a shop called the Treasure Pavilion. This person had not left the Abyss Island for the past 70 or 80 years, and was rather mysterious. Everyone only knew that his surname was Xiao. Although his cultivation was only at the early core formation stage, the power of his divine sense was astonishing and was only slightly inferior to that of a late core formation stage. Moreover, his magic power was abnormally pure. The strength displayed by such pure magic power was not much inferior to that of a mid-core formation stage cultivator. For various reasons, some core formation stage cultivators on the Abyss Island were somewhat wary of him. However, this person had provoked Daoist Sky Fire because of a fiery sun stone. With Sky Fire's temper, he would definitely not let this matter go. Perhaps he could test this person's background. This rather mysterious middle-aged man was the former disciple of the Shang-Qing sect, Xiao Hongfei. After he put away the fiery sunstone, he did not take the expressions of the cultivators in the hall to heart. Instead, he silently pondered about something. Lu Kuan, that guy is really daring. He actually wants to make a move on the Li brothers who are in the late core formation stage. Does he think that after he has a spiritual artifact, he can match up to 2 late core formation stage cultivators who have good teamwork? Xiao Hongfei's heart was very conflicted. Even if I, Xiao Hongfei, have a set of magic treasures and pure magic power and divine sense, I can only protect myself in front of a late core formation stage cultivator. The magic power of a core formation stage cultivator's divine sense can completely use multiple magic treasures at the same time. With the combination of a natal magic treasure and other magic treasures with different abilities, their battle prowess is not just a little bit stronger than a mid-core formation stage cultivator. Moreover, the Li brothers have been famous for 100 years. There is an 80 to 90% chance that they have a spiritual artifact protecting them. What makes Lu Kuan so confident that he can kill the 2 of them? Thinking of this, Xiao Hongfei glanced at Taoist Skyflame, who was looking at him with ill intentions, and his heart skipped a beat. First, let's see if Lu Kuan can create a spiritual artifact. Then, I'll borrow this Daoist Sky Fire to test his abilities. If Lu Kuan can suppress Daoist Sky Fire, then it means that he has the battle prowess of a late core formation stage cultivator. If that's the case, then I, Xiao Hongfei, can join forces with him. After all, this is a great opportunity for me to kill a late core formation stage cultivator. Chapter 562. Taoist Sky Flame watched Xiao Hongfei walk into the pavilion of treasures and sneered. Even if your spiritual sense is strong, it is still weaker than mine. Your cultivation is only at the early stage of the core formation stage. How dare you steal from me? Don't think that I can't do anything to you if you stay in the Abyss Island. Just as Taoist Sky Flame was about to enter the pavilion of treasures, his ears twitched and his expression changed. He could not help but use his spiritual sense to investigate. Why is he here? Then, the bald man hesitated and walked along the street in another direction. Soon, he arrived in front of a man in a red robe. He was not tall and his face was blurry. The man nodded at Taoist Sky Fire, then turned and walked into the restaurant next to him. Taoist Sky Flame hesitated for a moment. He felt that the man in the red robe did not have any ill intentions and followed him into the restaurant. The 2 of them walked up the stairs until they reached the 3rd floor. At this time, the man in the red robe removed the concealing spell on his face and revealed his face. He had short hair, a square face, light eyebrows, and big eyes. His eyes emitted a faint red light. If one looked closely, they would see a 3-leaf flame flashing in the depths of his eyes. Although his spiritual power was hidden, it emitted a scorching heat. Taoist Sky Flame took a deep breath and said in shock, "Oh Yangla, it really is you. Your eyes have such a vision. Have you completely mastered the flames of the 3 suns?" The man in the red robe was Oh Yangla, the Foundation Establishment senior brother of the Scorching Sun sect who reached the core formation stage on the Demon Island a few decades ago. Oh Yangla heard Taoist Sky Flame's exclamation and said with a smile, "The flames of the 3 suns are powerful. How can it be so easy to master? My cultivation technique has improved and I can barely use the surface of the flames of the 3 suns." Taoist Sky Flame heard this and was even more certain that he had mastered the flames of the 3 suns. His heart was filled with bitterness. The reason why he was called Taoist Sky Flame was because he once refined a primordial young earthly fire in the depths of a volcano. The primordial young earthly fire, under the control of his spiritual power, could easily break through the protective aura of a mid-stage core formation stage cultivator. Combined with his magic treasure, he could even kill a level 6 demon beast. It was because Dao Sky Fire cultivated the Tao of Fire that he understood the terror of the fire of three suns. This kind of flame was one of the three primordial fires of the scorching sun sect. If it was cultivated to the extreme, even a nascent soul stage cultivator would have a headache after being touched by it. It was much stronger than the primordial young earth fire that he had obtained by chance. Due to the scorching sun sect's research on different types of flames, they had made a deal with Taoist Sky Fire. Taoist Sky Fire would be regularly exchanged for cultivation resources with the primordial young earth fire generated by Taoist Sky Fire. At the same time, Taoist Sky Fire could also use the reputation of the scorching sun sect to intimidate his enemies. As for O Yangla, he had known him for decades, and the two of them had even sparred once. He, Taoist Sky Flame, was a cultivator in the middle stage of the core formation realm. In terms of magic treasures and dermic powers, O Yangla, who had just reached the core formation realm, was definitely no match for him. However, who would have thought that O Yanglu, who had just entered the core formation stage, would be able to cultivate a trace of the fire of the three suns. Coupled with his magic treasure, the fierce sun bow, he was only at a slight disadvantage in the battle. His primordial young earth fire was restrained by the trace of the fire of the three suns, unable to display any amplification effect. Now that Taoist Sky Flame saw the image of the flame in O Yangla's eyes, the heat emitted by it even affected the primordial young earth fire inside his body. It was obvious that O Yangla had already grasped the power of the fire of the three suns. The speed of improvement of such a heaven's favorite shocked Taoist Sky Flame. Now that O Yangla's dermic powers were much stronger than before, if the two of them were to fight again, Taoist Sky Flame would be at a disadvantage. Could it be that O Yangla, whose powers have greatly increased, is looking for me to talk about the fiery sun rock? O Yangla looked at Taoist Sky Flame's changing expression and chuckled. A red light flashed in his hand, and he opened the seal on the room in the deepest part of the third floor. He then took the lead and walked in. Inside the room, there was already a fairy sitting inside. The fairy wore a long black dress that wrapped around her exquisite figure. Her face was covered with a veil, and her eyes were black and clear. One could faintly see the crow's feet at the corner of her eyes. Although her face was covered with a veil, one could still feel her otherworldly temperament. What was even more shocking was the dermic powers she exuded. She was only a step away from the late-stage core formation realm, and the attribute of her dermic powers was very strange. Anyone who saw it would be shocked. This powerful aura immediately brought Taoist Sky Fire back to his senses. When he saw the fairy, his dermic powers surged and he said warily, "Brother O Yangla, I'm quite knowledgeable. I've seen most of the female core formation realm cultivators in the Chu country. This fairy looks very unfamiliar. With her cultivation, she's clearly not a new fellow Taoist." O Yangla cast a spell and closed the seal on the room again. He smiled faintly and said, "Brother Sky Flame, it's normal that you don't recognize her. This fairy is not a cultivator from the Chu country. She's Fairy Ling Yutong from the Miraculous Gate in the Wei country. She's very famous in the Wei country." When Taoist Sky Flame heard the words Miraculous Gate, his expression turned serious. The Miraculous Gate in the Wei country now had unfathomable strength. Not only were there many nascent soul realm cultivators, there were also many core formation realm cultivators. Other than the fact that there were no late-stage nascent soul realm cultivators, there was not much difference between them and the top three sects in the Chu country. Taoist Sky Flame's expression turned serious. He cupped his hands and said, "So it's Fairy Ling from the Miraculous Gate. I'm Taoist Sky Flame. Greetings." This black-dressed woman was Ling Yutong, who had been in the Chu country for many years. For some reason, she was with O Yanglu from the Scorching Sun sect. She bowed slightly and said, "Brother Sky Flame, I've heard of your name even in the Wei country. Now that I've met you, you're indeed worthy of your reputation." Taoist Sky Flame nodded and looked at Ouyangla. He frowned and said, "But brother Ouyangla, you sent me a voice transmission saying that it's related to the fiery sunstone. Why did you bring me here to meet Fairy Ling?" Ouyangla gently touched the tea on the table and poured a cup of spiritual tea for Ling Yutong and Taoist Sky Flame. He said slowly, "Brother Sky Flame, don't be anxious. Try the jade spiritual tea from my sect first. Then, listen to me slowly." Taoist Sky Flame heard that and sat down. He drank the jade spiritual tea in front of him and calmed himself down. He looked at Ouyangla and waited for him to continue. Ouyangla did not know whether to laugh or cry when he saw the bald man spoiling the spiritual tea. Fortunately, he knew Taoist Sky Flame's character and did not show any displeasure. He coughed softly and said, "Brother Sky Flame, actually, I was the one who threw the fiery sunstone in the Abyss auction house." "What?" Taoist Sky Flame was shocked when he heard that. He asked in confusion, "Brother Ouyangla, this fiery sunstone should be of great use to you. Even if you don't need it, you can exchange it with your fellow disciples in the sect. Why did you throw it in the Abyss auction house?" Ouyangla said indifferently, "It's because I want it to fall into someone's hands." Taoist Sky Flame's pupils constricted. "You want to deal with that Shao guy?" Chapter 563. The real owner of the treasure pavilion? Taoist Tianhua murmured. But the scale of the treasure pavilion is not big. It is already surprising that there is a core formation cultivator. Could there be other core formation cultivators? Looking at Taoist Tianhua's surprised expression, Ouyangla took a sip of tea and said, "Brother Tianhua, the magic weapons sold by the treasure pavilion are all of the foundation establishment level. As for the fake magic weapons, they have never been sold publicly. Compared to the fake magic weapons that appear from time to time in the 1,000 treasure pavilion and even magic weapons for sale, it is much worse. Plus, there is Shao Hongfei and other core formation cultivators on the surface. Naturally, no one would have any ideas about them. These are all places where they hide from others." Taoist Tianhua was stunned and said, "Shao Hongfei? The one with the surname Shao in the treasure pavilion?" "That's right." Ouyangla put down the teacup and said with emotion, "Shao Hongfei was the senior brother of the Shangqing sect, the #1 sect in the Wei Kingdom 100 years ago. According to the information provided by Fairy Ling, this person is very likely to have used the ancient core formation method to condense his core." Taoist Tianhua revealed a look of realization. No wonder his mana and divine sense are so strong. If he had entered the middle core formation stage, I would have been a little afraid. "Right, I heard that the Shangqing sect has retreated to the distant Great Zhou dynasty. Could the treasure pavilion be their stronghold in the Chu kingdom?" Ling Yutong chuckled and said, "Taoist Tianhua, you must be joking. The Great Zhou dynasty is the largest immortal kingdom in the mainland. There are many powerful immortal cultivation sections. After the Shangqing sect went there, they did not have enough manpower. Why would they send people to the Chu kingdom? Then could this Shao Hongfei be?" Ouyangla nodded and said, "He is an abandoned disciple of the Shangqing sect. So the treasure pavilion is not backed by the Shangqing sect, but by someone else. That is the remaining disciples of the Yeyang clan in the Wei kingdom." Taoist Tianhua exclaimed, "The Yeyang clan that is proficient in the art of refining weapons." "That's right." Taoist Tianhua looked at Ling Yutong and finally understood why this core formation cultivator of the miraculous gate appeared here. Obviously, she was here to catch the fish that escaped the net. The fact that the Devil Spirit sect was able to persevere and pursue him for 100 years, even going as far as the sea, made him sigh at the ruthlessness of the Devil Spirit sect. At this moment, Taoist Tianhua, Ouyangla and Ling Yutong were the disciples of the Yeyang clan. He was puzzled. "Brother Ouyang, if you want to deal with them, why did you go through the trouble?" Hearing this, Ouyangla didn't say anything. He poured a cup of spiritual tea for Taoist Skyfire and then finished his own cup of green spiritual tea. He closed his eyes and savored the refreshing feeling of green spiritual tea. His actions made Taoist Skyfire's heart skip a beat. He felt that he was about to be implicated. He coughed lightly and said, "Forget it. Brother Ouyang, you don't have to answer. Since this fiery sun rock was set up by Brother Ouyang, I, Skyfire, will forget about it." To the two of the bee. "Brother Tianhua, do you want the Tianhua stone?" Ouyangla's eyes were still closed. His words made Taoist Tianhua's Tianhua freeze. Taoist Tianhua cautiously asked, "Brother Ouyang, what do you mean?" Ouyangla put down the teacup and opened his flaming eyes. "It's simple. As long as Brother Tianhua agrees to help, I'll give you the Tianhua stone." Tianhua frowned. "You want me to help you deal with the Yang clan? What are their cultivations?" Ouyang Lu nodded and said, "That's right. As for the strength of these people, Fairy Ling knows better." Ling Yutong said, "There aren't many disciples of the Yang clan that escaped. The woman in charge of the treasure pavilion is one of them. However, that person is nearing the end of his life and is only at the foundation establishment stage. We don't have to worry about him for now. The other four are our real target. According to the information we've gathered over the years, 2 of them have entered the core formation stage. I, Ling Yutong, believe that I can deal with ordinary early core formation stage cultivators alone." Then, her black eyes revealed a dignified expression. "The one that we're paying attention to is a disciple of the Yang clan called Lu Kuan. It's very likely that he's also entered the core formation stage." Hearing this, Ouyangla's expression turned solemn. This made Taoist Tianhua feel very strange. Ling Yutong had the strength of a peak intermediate core formation stage cultivator. Just sitting next to her, he could feel a strong sense of oppression. Ouyangla, on the other hand, had refined the flames of the 3 suns. He was probably even stronger than Taoist Tianhua. What kind of strength could make 2 late core formation stage cultivators take him seriously? Taoist Tianhua curiously asked, "What's the background of this Lu Kuan? He's only entered the core formation stage, and he's already being treated so seriously by Fairy Ling." Ouyangla sighed and said, "This Lu Kuan entered the Demon Devil Island 70 years ago when it opened. However, he was only at the early foundation establishment stage at that time." Taoist Tianhua sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "He dared to enter the Demon Devil Island at the early foundation establishment stage? Furthermore, he was only at the early foundation establishment stage. What use could he have? He couldn't have entered the core formation stage." Ouyangla sighed with emotion. He should have entered to break through the bottleneck of early foundation establishment stage. According to my 2 junior martial brothers who fought with him, he was at the very least at the peak of mid-foundation establishment stage. My 2 junior martial brothers wielded the fierce sun Bao and the ghost spirit Sex and Iu. All of them were at the great circle of foundation establishment, but they were still unable to deal with him. If it weren't for my 2 junior martial brothers being clever, I fear they would have already perished on the Demon Devil Island. Taoist Tianhua's pupils shrunk. He immediately understood the meaning behind Ouyangla's words. To be able to cultivate a small realm in such a short amount of time and possess an absolute advantage over great circle of foundation establishment cultivators wielding fake magic treasures, this was a frightening strength that allowed one to fight above their level. He muttered, "It's been 70 years since the Demon Devil Island closed. If there are enough resources, a top-notch genius can truly enter the core formation stage. However, the core formation stage is completely different. Magic treasures need to be refined, and they need time to be nurtured. It's impossible to fight above one's level like in the foundation establishment stage." Ling Yutong nodded and said, "That's right. That's why we have to take advantage of the fact that he has yet to mature and eliminate him." Otherwise, when he enters mid-core formation stage, he will be even more difficult to deal with. Yangla took advantage of the situation and said, Brother Tianhua, so long as you agree to join hands with me to deal with Lu Kuan, I will give you a fist-sized fiery sunstone as a reward. You must know that among the core formation stage cultivators, even if I have the fire of 3 suns, I am only comparable to a late core formation stage cultivator. No matter how high Lu Kuan's battle prowess is, he is only comparable to a late core formation stage cultivator. Yangla's expression was arrogant as he said, If my fire of 3 suns and Brother Tianhua's primordial yang earth fire work together, their power will be so great that even a late core formation stage cultivator would not dare to face them head-on. When Taoist Tianhua heard this, he immediately thought of the strange scene that happened when they fought years ago. His eyes shone with a strange light. He pondered for a while and replied, I agree to help. However, other than the fiery sunstone, how do we split the treasures in this person's storage pouch? Yangla laughed and said, Fairy Ling and I only need the jade slips on his body. As for the other treasures, how about we split them equally? Good, straightforward. I Tianhua agree. However, what use does the fiery sunstone have? Ling Yutong chuckled and explained, Originally, after I found out about this person, I planned to act as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Lu Kuan and the others are extremely cunning. We don't know where they are hiding and we can't find them. As for the treasure pavilion, there is only Xiao Hongfei in charge. Fortunately, half a month ago, the people of the treasure pavilion were searching for top-grade fire attribute materials, and we found them. Ling Yutong sneered and said, They are collecting these materials to refine treasures. You must know that among the remaining disciples of the Yang clan, only 2 of them are good at refining treasures. One of them is a wind attribute cultivator. They have no need for these materials. On the other hand, Lu Kuan used to be a fire attribute cultivator. Now, he has switched to a lightning attribute cultivation method. These materials are most likely to be used to refine his treasures. Taoist Yangla and I worked together to come up with the idea of using the fiery sunstone. Looking at Taoist Skyfire's puzzled expression, Yangla explained, After successfully cultivating the fire of 3 suns, there will be some unimaginable magical powers. One of them is the ability to fuse a trace of the flame into fire attribute materials. Ordinary cultivators will not be able to detect it. This flame is completely under my control. Not only can I use a secret technique to track, but more importantly, when the other party uses this material to refine a treasure, I can also explode the fire of 3 suns in it at a close distance. Yangla smirked and said, When the fire of 3 suns explodes in his treasure, even if he doesn't die, he will be seriously injured. Taoist Tianhua thought of the power of the fire of 3 suns and couldn't help sweating. He admired Yangla's clever move, but at the same time, he became vigilant. Yangla saw Taoist Tianhua's fear and laughed, Brother Tianhua, you have the primordial yang earth fire. My fire of 3 suns can't be hidden from you. After hearing this, Taoist Tianhua's expression relaxed. With Brother Tianhua's help, it should be foolproof. Next, we just need to wait for them to finish refining their treasures and leave Abyss Island. Then, we can follow and ambush them. Chapter 564. Abyss Island Treasure Pavilion's Backyard. Xiao Hongfei's eyes were round and full of worry. He shouted, You 2 are crazy. This is a psychic magic treasure. You actually want to take it apart. Not far in front of him, Lu Kuan and Qin Yushu were sitting cross-legged on the ground. Between the 2 of them was a simple earth-yellow bracelet. The bracelet was densely covered with runes, and from time to time, it would flash with astonishing light. It was the psychic magic treasure, the psychic magic treasure, the psychic magic bracelet. The 2 of them were in the middle of a heated discussion. If one listened carefully, they would discover that they were talking about how to take the psychic magic treasure apart and explore the refining method of the psychic magic treasure. Xiao Hongfei saw that the two of them had no reaction to his words, so he shouted again, "Hey, did you hear me? Didn't we say we were refining a psychic magic treasure? How did it turn into taking it apart?" Lu Kuan turned his head and threw a brass jade pendant to Xiao Hongfei. He said in an indifferent tone, "Oh, this was originally a psychic magic treasure. In the past 2 days, we took it apart and refined it again." Xiao Hongfei stared blankly at the jade pendant in his hand that was flashing with astonishing light. He looked at the brand new patterns on the pendant and said in shock, "This means that you can refine a psychic magic treasure?" Qin Yushu smiled and said, "Brother Xiao, you misunderstood. This jade pendant was once a psychic magic treasure. However, after we took it apart and refined it again, although the material is intact, the spirit pattern array is missing, and its power is greatly reduced. This should be called a pseudo-psychic magic treasure." Xiao Hongfei's body trembled slightly and said, "You're ruining a psychic magic treasure like this. If other core formation cultivators knew, they would definitely destroy you." Lu Kuan said indifferently, "It's fine. In any case, we stole it, so it's not a big deal. However, if it can greatly improve our refining techniques, then it can be considered to have its true use." Xiao Hongfei's expression was sluggish. He was unable to understand Lu Kuan's train of thought. After staring blankly for a while, he asked, "Could it be that your Yang clan doesn't have a method to refine psychic magic treasures?" Lu Kuan shook his head and sighed. "Back then, when the miraculous gate exterminated all of us, not a single core formation cultivator escaped. Although we have the refining method, without the guidance of a senior, it's really too difficult to research it. What's confusing me and senior martial brother Qin right now is the spirit pattern array inside the psychic magic treasure. Spiritual tattoo formation." Qin Yushu looked at the complicated patterns on the outside of the bracelet and said with emotion, "Yes, the biggest difference between this magic weapon and a psychic magic weapon is the spiritual tattoo formation. Only a complete spiritual tattoo formation can form a psychic magic weapon with the help of various precious materials." Looking at Xiao Hongfei's confused expression, Lu Kuan explained, "Brother Xiao, before the mystic yellow jade pendant in your hand is smelted again, the patterns on the outside are even more complicated. I didn't completely redraw the previous spiritual tattoo formation, so the grade of this magic weapon dropped." Qin Yushu said with some vexation, "Although Lu Shidi and I are proficient in martial Uncle Zhu's divine sense engraving technique, to perfectly inscribe a spiritual tattoo formation, only a late core formation stage divine sense or above can do it. If I enter the core formation stage, I can join hands with junior martial brother to perform a secret technique and combine the power of our divine sense to meet the requirements of engraving. Unfortunately, I still have a few years to complete the condensation of my magic power. If I spend a few more years to enter the core formation stage, there won't be enough time." Xiao Hongfei nodded as if he understood. However, he didn't have the slightest doubt that Qin Yushu could enter the core formation stage. Just like him, Qin Yushu entered the foundation establishment stage using the ancient foundation establishment method. His chances of entering the core formation stage were much higher than the average cultivator. Moreover, Qin Yushu's magic power had already been converted to wind attribute magic power. These past few years, he had been using a secret technique to condense his magic power. With his current progress, it would probably start to crystallize in a few years. If he were to use supplementary medicinal pills and a place with abundant spiritual energy, his core formation stage would be almost guaranteed. Xiao Hongfei hesitated for a moment before saying, "That, Lu Kuan, if I were to perform that secret technique with you, would we be able to greatly increase the power of our divine sense?" Lu Kuan said regretfully, "Brother Xiao, this kind of divine sense secret technique, senior martial brother Qin and I have been practicing it for dozens of years. Only then can we achieve this level of cooperation. It is impossible for others in a short period of time. Therefore, you have to split this spiritual bracelet. Lu Kuan coughed lightly and said, "That's right. However, Brother Xiao, you don't have to show such a distressed expression. Although this spiritual magic treasure has 2 divine abilities, it is not yours." Xiao Hongfei said in disbelief, "A spiritual magic treasure with 2 divine abilities. What a waste of a treasure. This is a treasure that can be used until the nascent soul stage." Lu Kuan ignored Xiao Hongfei's shouts. He got up and walked to the felt stone in the backyard. This felt stone had already been condensed countless times. Not only was it resistant to heat, it was also able to withstand extremely strong impacts. Lu Kuan suddenly thought of something. He turned around and said, "That's right, Brother Xiao. Since you accepted this mysterious yellow jade pendant, does that mean you agreed to help?" Xiao Hongfei's expression changed. He immediately threw the pendant back and said, "Damn it, I don't want this second-hand item. What you said before was a real spiritual magic treasure." Lu Kuan's hand flashed with light. He put the mysterious yellow jade pendant into his storage bag and said, "Let's not talk about that for now. Right now, I have to trouble fellow Taoist Xiao to help me use my Transcendence True Fire. With the power of our Transcendence True Fire and my hammering, we can split this spiritual magic bracelet." "All right." Seeing Xiao Hongfei reluctantly walk over, Lu Kuan stretched out his hand and a thick silver staff appeared in his hand. This was the main frame of the Silver Dragon flying ship, the Silver Dragon meteorite iron. Only this most primitive and top-notch material could remain in shape under the long-term tempering of a core formation cultivator's Transcendence True Fire and his brute force. If he used a pseudomagic treasure like the meteorite staff, his meteorite staff would melt into a Silver Dragon meteorite iron even before the spiritual magic bracelet melted. As for the Silver Dragon meteorite iron, Lu Kuan was not worried. According to the description in the Art of Sentient Puppetry, only the Transcendence True Fire of a late nascent soul stage cultivator could melt it. Sometimes, Lu Kuan thought that besides the Art of Sentient Puppetry, the Miraculous Gate was also thinking about the Silver Dragon meteorite iron. While he was thinking, Xiao Hongfei had already activated his Transcendence True Fire. A pale golden flame landed on the spiritual magic bracelet. Immediately after, Lu Kuan also activated the Transcendence True Fire in his bones. A pale purple Transcendence True Fire appeared out of thin air and resonated with the golden flame. Under the control of the two, the power of the flame acted on the spiritual magic bracelet. Then, Lu Kuan held the staff with both hands and rolled up the sleeves of his robe, revealing his thick and strong arms. Dang dang dang! A series of hammering sounds began to resound in the backyard. Lu Kuan himself was completely focused on the spiritual magic bracelet in front of him, especially the spiritual pattern array on it. He judged the changes of the spiritual pattern array through the feedback of his divine sense and muscle nerve. The spiritual pattern inside this spiritual magic treasure was more than several times more complicated than the previous one. If he understood the many changes of the spiritual pattern array and the impact of different hammering strength on it, Lu Kuan was completely confident that he could inscribe the simple spiritual pattern array in the Yang clan's ancient books. Chapter 565. A week later, in the Abyss Market, the backyard of the Treasure Pavilion, Lu Kuan and Qin Yushu sat cross-legged. As for Xiao Hongfei, he was nowhere to be seen. In the beginning, the process of melting and separating the Nightmare Spirit Bracelet went very smoothly. With the true fire of the two core formation stage cultivators and Lu Kuan's terrifying strength of 200,000 kilograms, the Nightmare Spirit Bracelet gradually melted, and the spirit patterns on it gradually dissipated. Then various miniature arrays in the depths of the magic weapon were revealed. The powder of the array dissipated, and then various materials were separated. If the whole process was reversed, it would be the refining method of a spiritual magic weapon. It was similar to the refining of magic weapons in many ways, such as the fusion of materials, the engraving of miniature arrays, etc. These were familiar to Lu Kuan, who was currently in the bone treasure stage. As for the troublesome part, it was the spirit pattern array. This spirit pattern array was not like other miniature arrays. It did not need to be engraved with powdered materials. Instead, it used spiritual consciousness to directly brand and engrave lines on the softened materials to form spirit patterns, thus stimulating the greatest characteristics of various materials. This kind of branding greatly increased the difficulty. It must be known that the characteristics of all materials were different, which meant that every small section of spirit pattern was engraved. One had to let the spiritual consciousness change with the material to engrave a complete spirit pattern array. From this, it could be seen that the requirements for spiritual consciousness were extremely high. Since ancient times, almost all the people who refined spiritual magic weapons were old monsters of the nascent soul stage. There were very few core formation stage cultivators who could refine it. Even in the history of the Yang clan, there were only a few people. Fortunately, Lu Kuan had the advantage of being a physical cultivator. When engraving the spirit pattern array, he could use the strength of his body to assist. By hammering the soft materials, coupled with the feedback of the muscles and nerves, the difficulty of engraving was reduced. Nevertheless, after this nightmare spirit bracelet was reforged by him, the quality still dropped. When Xiao Hongfei saw this scene, he was heartbroken. After helping Lu Kuan refine it, he left. At this moment, a new nightmare spirit bracelet was placed in front of Lu Kuan and Qin Yushu. The spirit patterns on the bracelet were sparse, and the spirit light it emitted was also weaker. Qin Yushu used his divine sense to carefully sense the bracelet. His face lit up with joy as he said, "Although the grade of this soul-controlling bracelet has dropped by 1 grade and only has 1 divine ability, it is still a psychic magic treasure. Looks like junior brother already has the ability to refine such a treasure." Lu Kuan smiled bitterly and said, "It's too much to say that I can refine it. I can only restore it once. Moreover, if it weren't for the special Earth Spirit Stone in this Nightmare Spirit Bracelet, I'm afraid this top-grade treasure would have become a pseudo-spiritual magic treasure again." When Qin Yushu heard about the Earth Spirit Stone, his expression changed and he said, "I saw junior brother's refining process. When he was carving the spirit pattern array, I vaguely saw a trace of pure spiritual energy in the Earth Spirit Stone. Could it be because of this?" Lu Kuan nodded and said, "That's right. I didn't have the slightest confidence in the second divine ability's complex spirit pattern, so I only carved the first divine ability's spirit pattern. Because the Nightmare Spirit Bracelet contains 3 top-grade Earth attribute materials, it is very difficult to carve. At the last moment, the pure Earth attribute spiritual energy in the depths of the Earth Spirit Stone suddenly burst out, and the difficulty of carving the spirit pattern was reduced by a lot." Qin Yushu said thoughtfully, "The spirit pattern array is carved on the material itself. The pure spiritual energy in the material plays a catalytic role, which can reduce the difficulty of carving the spirit pattern." Then he said with some excitement, "Junior brother, doesn't this mean that, if the material itself has innate spiritual energy, it will be easier to carve the spirit pattern?" When Lu Kuan heard this, he thought for a while and picked up the Nightmare Spirit Bracelet in front of him. He cast a few spells into it, and at the same time, the core formation stage spiritual energy in his body surged into it. In the blink of an eye, the yellow bracelet trembled and quickly floated above Lu Kuan's head. At the same time, a very sturdy yellow spirit light enveloped him. However, this protective spirit light was much thinner than when An I Shao used it before. Lu Kuan's eyes flashed with golden light as he carefully examined this new yellow spirit light. Although it was thinner, it seemed to be denser. Combined with some of the understanding he had when he broke it down, he thought, The current protective spirit light should be able to block more low-grade attacks, but the ability to freeze magic treasures has disappeared. Although the quality has decreased, the defensive power is still stronger than the previous mysterious yellow jade pendant. The change in this defensive ability should be related to the pure spiritual energy in the Earth Spirit Stone. Qin Yushu said, "Junior apprentice brother, could it be because of this pure spiritual energy that this psychic talisman uses the Earth Spirit Stone as its main element, and the characteristics of the other materials were not stimulated, so the ability to freeze the talisman is gone?" This innate spiritual energy can help carve the spirit pattern array, but it will hinder the characteristics of the other materials. Lu Kuan's eyes lit up. Yes, it should be like this. The purpose of the spirit pattern array is to bring out the characteristics of the various materials to the extreme. This pure spiritual energy will make the spirit pattern array lean towards it. If the mysterious yellow jade pendant was reforged before, the main material, the mysterious yellow jade pendant, might not have decreased the quality of the jade pendant at all, because the other materials of the jade pendant are used for auxiliary purposes. Qin Yushu suddenly thought of something and said in surprise, "The spiritual magic treasure we want to refine only needs a powerful lightning attack power. The reason why we use the 3 attributes of water, fire, and wood is to strengthen the lightning characteristics. If the lightning attribute materials contain innate pure spiritual energy, the carving of spirit patterns will be easier. The water, fire, and wood materials are only used for auxiliary purposes, and will not be suppressed by the spirit pattern array." Lu Kuan obviously also thought of this point, and immediately took out a brocade box with runes on it. He exhaled a breath of spiritual energy. "General Talisman?" He blew it away and opened it. Crack! Inside was a light purple metal lump the size of 2 fists, with lightning flowing on it from time to time. It was very strange. Lu Kuan grabbed it in his hand, and at the same time, he activated his bone magic power. A glaring ball of lightning appeared in his hand, and wrapped around the metal lump. The ball of lightning kept shrinking, as if it wanted to drill into the metal lump, and made a buzzing sound. But the ball of lightning seemed to have encountered an obstacle, and after 10 breaths, it dissipated, unable to enter the metal lump. Lu Kuan frowned and said, "This piece of mutated lightning metal was obtained by breaking down an Ai Zhao's magic treasure. If it was refined into a magic treasure, I could infuse my magic power into it to form the power of lightning. But it has been turned into a raw material, so this method will not work." Qin Yushu saw Lu Kuan's actions and knew that he wanted to artificially infuse innate lightning spiritual energy. He smiled and said, "Junior brother, this raw material naturally requires the power of lightning between heaven and earth. Magic power is of course useless." Lu Kuan's eyes lit up. "That's right, I can infuse the power of lightning between heaven and earth into it. This mutated lightning metal originally mutated from being struck by lightning for a long time. Senior brother, I will go out and scout around to see if there are any places nearby that are suitable for collecting the power of lightning." Qin Yushu coughed lightly and said, "Junior brother, in the Abyss Market, there should be some people eyeing the treasure pavilion because of the fiery sunstone. You have to be careful. Don't worry, don't you know my transformation technique?" Chapter 566. As Lu Kuan walked, his face changed and turned into a fierce-looking man. Most of his aura disappeared, and he only revealed the fluctuations of a late foundation establishment stage cultivator. After he opened the backyard's barrier, he was slightly stunned. He saw that Xiao Hongfei had been standing at the entrance of the backyard and was looking at this unfamiliar man with surprise. "You are Lu Kuan?" Lu Kuan, who turned into a man, coughed and said, "Who else could it be? Brother Xiao is here. Could it be that you are waiting for Lu?" Xiao Hongfei clicked his tongue in wonder and said, "Your transformation divine art is really not simple. Even I can't find any clues. Then, he waved his hand, and a soundproof shield enveloped the two of them. He said seriously, Lu Kuan, I have a rough idea of your refining skills. You are indeed capable of refining a spirit-channeling artifact. But if you want me to take the risk to help you deal with the Li brothers, you should at least let me know your true strength. Lu Kuan raised his eyebrows and said, Could it be that Brother Xiao wants to spar with me? Xiao Hongfei's lips curled up and said, Since we are going to work together to fight the enemy, of course we have to see if it is really as you said. Our abilities complement each other, and we can unleash a stronger battle strength. Brother Xiao means that we should work together to kill a high-level demon beast? Xiao Hongfei laughed and said, When I helped you bid for the fiery sunstone, I offended the Taoist priest Sky Fire. Lu Kuan frowned and said, The Taoist priest Sky Fire? This guy has the cultivation of a mid-core formation stage cultivator. He also refined the primordial young earthly fire, a special type of flame. His true strength is about the same as a late core formation stage cultivator. With this person's violent temperament, he is most likely thinking about how to take revenge on me. Lu Kuan said, Brother Xiao means that we should lure him out and work together to deal with him? Xiao Hongfei touched the Vajra bracelet on his wrist and said with a murderous aura, Hee, this person is related to the Scorching Sun sect. If we make a move, we must kill him completely. Otherwise, it will attract some trouble. Lu Kuan pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. Okay, Lu Kuan, agree. Although I'm unable to kill this person by myself before the psychic magic treasure is refined, with Brother Zhao's cooperation, it's basically a cinch. Seeing Lu Kuan's confidence, Xiao said, Xiao Hongfei, are you sure? Lu Kuan calmly said, If we can't even take down a completion stage cultivator of the advanced stage, how can we deal with the Li brothers? However, how does Brother Xiao plan to lure the Sky Flame Taoist? Xiao Hongfei snorted coldly and said, That's easy. I can guarantee that as soon as I leave Abyssal Island, that guy will secretly follow me and wait for an opportunity to attack me. I am also leaving the island. The mutated lightning metal in my hand needs to be refined with the power of thunder. Xiao Hongfei's eyes lit up. Power of thunder? Then I will have to trouble Brother Lu to pretend to be my follower and leave the rest to me. Then, the two of them whispered and left the treasure pavilion one after another. On the third floor of a shop belonging to the Scorching Sun sect in the Abyss Market was a secret room that was not open to the public. Only the Scorching Sun sect's honorable cultivators had the right to use it. In the room sat a short man with light eyebrows and a square face. It was Yangla. 15 minutes after Lu Kuan and Xiao Hongfei left the treasure pavilion, Xiao Hongfei suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a puzzled expression. Then, he formed a mysterious seal with both hands and a red, yellow, and orange flame appeared in his hand. Suddenly, the temperature in the room rose rapidly and the air became distorted. Yangla continued to recite a complicated incantation and the three-colored flame became swaying, the tip of the flame pointing in a direction. Yangla was surprised. He left the treasure pavilion so quickly, but judging from the reaction of the three suns' fire, the fiery sunstone has not been refined into a magic weapon yet. Is he not planning to refine a magic weapon in the Abyss City? Thinking of this, he opened the restriction and walked out. The shop he was in also sold magic weapons, but they were mainly fire attribute magic weapons. After all, the Scorching Sun sect had accumulated for so many years and the refining technique of fire attribute magic weapons had reached an unfathomable level. As long as there were cultivators on the Abyss Island who wanted to buy fire attribute magic weapons, they would all choose this mysterious flame pavilion opened by the Scorching Sun sect. Just as Yangla went downstairs, a Scorching Sun sect disciple quickly came up and whispered a few words respectfully. Yangla said, You said that Xiao Hongfei left the treasure pavilion with a late Foundation establishment follower. You didn't see that follower in the treasure pavilion? Yes, Elder Ouyang. Yangla asked again, where did they go? Elder Ouyang, the two just left the Thousand Treasure Pavilion and are now heading in the direction of the Abyss Auction House. Okay, I got it. You can go now. After Yangla sent the disciple away, he cast a spell to change his face and left the mysterious Flame Pavilion. He walked along the main road of the Abyss City and entered the Thousand Treasure Pavilion. He relied on a fiery red token and entered the Myriad Treasure Tower's topmost floor without any obstruction. The Myriad Treasure Tower's shopkeeper here went up to greet with a fawning smile. After half an hour, Yangla walked out with a hint of surprise in his eyes and quickly returned to the mysterious Flame Pavilion. After another hour, Xiao Hongfei and a burly man sat on a lavender spirit shuttle and left the Abyss Island, heading south. Not long after they left, 2 men and a woman also appeared outside the restriction of the Abyss Island. They were Yangla, Ling Yutong, and Taoist Skyfire. The 3 of them flew into the air unhurriedly and began to talk to each other through voice transmission. Taoist Skyfire was a little puzzled. Brother Ouyang, didn't you say that the fiery sun stone has not been refined into a magic weapon? And the person beside Xiao Hongfei, no matter how I look at him, is he really at the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm? Ling Yutong said coldly, Taoist Skyfire, you don't know. Lu Kuan's cultivation method specializes in the physical body. Under the change of face, ordinary cultivators can't see through him at all. Moreover, he has a secret technique to hide his spiritual power. Yangla interrupted. The most important thing is, why would Xiao Hongfei let a Foundation establishment late-stage cultivator keep the precious fiery sunstone? Ling Yutong continued. This time they came out to collect Thunderbolt. Obviously, it's for Lu Kuan to refine a magic weapon. There are only 2 of them. It's the best opportunity. Yangla said, that's right. When the time comes, Fairy Ling will block Xiao Hongfei. Brother Skyfire and I will work together to kill Lu Kuan. This way there will be no mistakes. Ling Yutong said calmly, the 2 of you must not be careless. Lu Kuan's cultivation method is strange. It's unimaginable that he can cultivate his physical body. We have to treat him like a Class 7 demonic beast. This way there will be no mistakes. Yangla said seriously, don't worry, Fairy Ling. My 2 junior brothers have already told me about Lu Kuan's attack methods. This person's strength combined with the power of his magic weapon, his attack power far surpasses that of his peers. However, he hasn't refined a magic weapon yet. His attack power is limited. Moreover, even if he has the defensive power of a Class 7 demonic beast, with me and Skyfire joining forces, the defensive power of a Class 7 demonic beast is nothing. Ling Yutong heard Yangla's words and felt relieved. If that's the case, I, Skyfire, also want a copy of Lu Kuan's cultivation method. Haha, of course. This miraculous cultivation method will naturally be duplicated into 3 copies. Skyfire Taoist heard this and nodded with satisfaction. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.